Okay, councillors and council officers and members of the press and members of the public, you're all very welcome to this, our August Council meeting held on Thursday the 29th of July 2021 via WebEx, just to make everyone aware that I am in the Council Chamber in the Grange, Omagh, to chair the meeting. Just a few preliminaries before we commence our meeting. There are 16 main items of business for the meeting, and it's up to every individual councillor to make sure that we get the business dealt with as it is listed. I would ask as well for your cooperation with regard to your phones being switched off or on silent. There are also many items of matters arising. The majority are for noting. There are many items of correspondence. A lot of it's for noting, so bear with us on that. There are 3 motions plus 1 amendment for the 3rd motion, which I have accepted. The timings will be rigidly adhered to, and under any urgent and relevant business, I've allowed the following to come in: Councillor Alan Rainey, MBE, Councillor Tommy Maguire, Councillor Seamus Green. The 4th one is the Chief Executive, and the 5th one, which I've just been informed of, is the Vice Chair, Councillor Chris McCaffrey. If we get to there, we'll be doing well. So I would ask you all for your cooperation and to be courteous to the Chair and to all other councillors on the meeting. Thank you. Start the meeting in proper. First of all, can we go to item number 1? It's apologies I have received so far. Councillors Paul Robinson, Councillor Bernice Swift, and Councillor Stephen Donnelly. I will now go to the council group leaders. Sinn Féin Group Leader, Councillor Tommy Maguire.
Thank you very much, Chair. 2 apologies from the Sinn Féin group, and tonight Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald and Collier Glenn Campbell. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Maguire. Next up is the Group Leader of the Ulster Unionist Party, Councillor Robert Irvine.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Smith may be late. He's still having medical issues. Apart from that, everybody else is here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Irvine. Okay, I'm conscious that Councillor Paul Robinson is not in attendance. Can we go to the Democratic Unionist Party representative for apologies, if there are any others?
Chair, there's no other apologies that I'm aware of. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erskine. On now to the SDLP, Councillor Mary Gardy.
Thank you very much, Chair. Earl, tonight we have apologies from Councillor Garvin McPhillips. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardy. On to smaller parties and independents. Are there any other apologies? If not, we move on to item 2, and that's to confirm and sign the meetings. Sign the minutes, sorry.
Sorry, Chair, Tom here. Could maybe you ask IT Chair to contact Catherine Kelly? She seems to have some IT issues.
Okay, Councillor O'Reilly, that's fine. Thank you. Okay, on to item 2, and it's to confirm and sign minutes of the council meeting held on the 5th of July 2021, and it's paper A, and this is for accuracy. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15, page 16, page 17, page 18, page 19, page 20, and page 21. Can I have a proposer and a seconder for the adoption of the minutes? Councillor Mary Gardy,
Proposed, Chair. Thank you.
thank you. And Councillor Chris McCaffrey,
Seconded, Chair. Thank you.
thanks, thank you. Councillor Tommy Maguire, do you want to raise an issue?
Chair, sorry, Chair, I did come in to second there. I have a matter arising, but I'll raise it at item 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Could you take your hand down there, Councillor Maguire, for the time being? Thank you. Just bear with me. Just bear with me, please. Apologies for that, members. We're on now to the minutes of the special meeting held on Monday the 19th of July 2021, and it's for accuracy. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15, and page 16. Can we have a proposer and seconder for the adoption of the minutes? Councillor Robert Irvine,
Thank you, Chair. Happy to propose adoption.
okay, thank you, and Councillor Mark Buchanan.
Chair, can I second, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buchanan. Okay, on to item 4, and we have declarations of interest, if any. Okay, councillors, I'm not seeing any indications for declarations of interest at this time. We'll move on now to item number 5, which is the matters arising from the council meeting dated the 5th of July 2021. Page 1, page 2, page 3.
Chair.
Councillor Barry McAduff.
Okay, thank you, Chair. On page 3, there's reference to a probable meeting soon of the OMA Place Shaping Steering Group. And just to seek maybe advice from the Chief Executive through yourself, Chair, as to when that will happen. Will it be September? And just to remind us as to the stated purpose of the OMA Place Shaping Steering Group and its main function.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McAduff. I'll bring the Chief Executive in. Thank
Yes, Chair, thank you. Chair, first of all, the membership from a council perspective are the Omagh Town Councillor members, or sorry, the Omagh Town DEA members. And as members will be aware, Councillor Smith is relinquishing his position from the 5th of August, so we will be having a co-opted councillor. So it was therefore considered appropriate, Chair, that we would wait for the first meeting of the steering group until we had the new member co-opted in, and we have those details, so that will be effected from the 5th of August. So we would be proceeding to convene a meeting as soon as is practicable after recess. The stated purpose of the group, Chair, is really the oversight of the Omagh place shaping strategy and plan, which is being co-funded by the Department for Communities and is primarily looking at the variety of opportunity sites in Omagh, but also the particular challenges that the extent of these sites coming on the market at the one time will bring.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Chief Executive.
Thank you, Chief Executive, and thank you, Councillor McAduff. Carrying on with matters arising, page 3, page 4.
Chair, sorry.
Councillor Maguire.
Sorry about that, Chair. I thought I had my hand up there.
Yep.
Chair, at page 3, 6.1, in relation to the Planning Committee, as the Sinn Féin nominating officer, I wish it to go on record that Councillor Sean Donnelly will be standing down, and that I wish to nominate Councillor Barry McAduff to take up the position on the Planning Committee. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Maguire, for that. Councillor McCarthy, you want to come in?
Apologies, Chair, just that needs seconded or not, but perhaps not. That's okay.
No, it's not necessary, but that's fine. So Councillor McAduff is replacing Councillor Sean Donnelly on FODC Planning Committee. Thank you for that. Moving on again to matters arising, page 4.
Yes, Chair, just to advise members on item 7.2, we have received correspondence. It's in the other folder, Chair, from the Minister confirming that the base for the Forest Service Chief Executive is Inniskeen House, Enniskillen. So just for information, Chair.
Okay, can we have a proposer to note and second?
Councillor Green.
I'm aware councillors are coming in here, but can we have a proposal to note first of all?
Proposed, Chair.
Proposed by Councillor Dehan to note, seconder.
Councillor Irvine.
Councillor Irvine to second to noting, and all agreed with the noting. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I welcome the letter, and it does give some encouragement that the relocation of Forest Service has actually created more worthwhile jobs in the council area. As for the Chief Executive, his office, of course, is based in Enniskillen, but I think maybe the question was lost, maybe in translation. My question was, how often does he actually be there? So I don't know whether it's worthwhile pursuing that or not, but we'll leave it for another year and maybe we'll ask the same question again in a different format.
Okay, Councillor Green, your points have been noted. Thank you. Okay, moving on, page 5.
Yes, Chair. Item 7.3, correspondence has been received from the Department for Infrastructure, from the Minister's Private Secretary, and this is just in relation to the matters raised at the Council meeting regarding the procurement process about the measured term contracts. Mindful, Chair, it was considered also at the Special Council meeting, but this was an action from our meeting on the 5th of July.
Okay, thank you, Chief Executive. Can we have a proposer to note and a seconder, please?
Proposed, Councillor Irvine, Chair.
Councillor Irvine, and seconded.
Councillor Armstrong.
Councillor Diana Armstrong. Thank you, and all agreed. Thank you very much. Moving on again, continue with page 5. Page 6. Sorry, Councillor McAduff.
Thank you, Chair. Page 5, item 7.3, local roads, and the Minister's letter, the letter from the private office refers here, private secretary to the Minister for Infrastructure. So I think it's very important that we just pause for a second and absorb what is being said by David McKinley, for example, at the Special Council meeting, and the Minister's office I would like to take heart from the paragraph which says, "As it is proposed to extend the current contract in the Oma area for a short period of up to 5 months," etc. That's like what we called for at the last council meeting. And it's this whole business of procurement, quite technical, quite legal. We don't want to go there into the legalities of this, but the bottom line is this: we need the ability to lobby DFA roads to remedy and repair structural defects in the Oma area every month of the year. And there was a threat to that, and we trust now that that threat has been addressed, and that procedurally and through other mechanisms, road service or DFA roads is going to be in a position till they don't have enough of a baseline budget, we know that, but they're going to be in a position legally and technically to carry out necessary repairs in the Oma area. And I would like to thank the council for making the intervention that it made, because it might have made a difference. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McAnuff. I see other councillors coming on this. Now, we have had this issue and it's been raised on various different formats and formulas. And we had our special council meeting, which was raised again with our senior team for the West from DFA. So if members can be very, very succinct in their remarks, I'd appreciate it. Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair, and I will be brief. We had pointed this out, I think, at the previous meeting, that this was, although it's not explicitly said, due to a legal challenge that was taken against the department through errors they had committed themselves. So I'm not sure why the Minister is trying to really pass the buck in this letter. And again, you know, taking no responsibility whatsoever, and it's very disappointing. And again, that it's going to be September time before tenders will be going out, with a view to having the first phase of new contracts, including Oma, in place in early 2022. It's a failing of the department, and it's not good enough, Chair. But it's another example of us being let down by those parties in Stormont. Thank you.
Okay, I think those points have been well made over various meetings. So I'll carry on now with Councillor Eamon Keenan.
Thank you, Chair. Well, again, disappointed that the public roads will likely end up in a further state of disrepair. And it is again apparent that the neoliberal policy of outsourcing the public contracts to private companies, who have often ended up not being fit for the job, and have also some of them been known to exploit the workers and profiteering from the public funds.
Okay, your comments have been noted.
From that, we as public representatives, you know, we've sent numerous letters. We've talked early on the inadequacy of our roads. And do we need any more evidence to prove that this current system that is being used, not only by the road service, but nearly all government departments, doesn't work effectively and efficiently for the majority of people? I believe that all public road projects should be carried out directly by DFA roads, and I understand that they do not have the capacity at the moment because of the neoliberal process of outsourcing everything. And this has been going on for many years, and that is the problem. But if they were capable of doing these projects themselves, which would affect the nationalisation of public roads projects, then at least there would be accountability, control, and an end to the exploitation of the workers, and an end to the profiteering of private interests of public money in this situation. Now, this is only my view and my opinion, and I understand that others will argue against it on the basis of interests of businesses and jobs. And my answer to that is, this is public money. These are public projects, and 99% of cases of these businesses, only a handful of people prosper. Whereas if these projects are nationalised, there will be more jobs.
Okay, bring your comments to a close, Councillor Keenan.
Would likely pay more and almost certainly have better terms and conditions. So are we as public representatives actually...
You're being cut out there. You're cutting out. You're cutting out. Thank you. Councillor Bert Wilson. Councillor Wilson.
I had a constituent who contacted me. They had burst a wheel on a road where a very deep pothole. They contacted, put in a claim, and they were told that it only be inspected once every 6 months, and that as none of the public had reported, they would not pay. So I can't, is the public meant to work for the road service or not, or who? To me, that was totally unfair and needs to be appealed. But that is something that was totally out of order as far as I was concerned. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Donald Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have to say that I agreed entirely with what Councillor Eamon Keenan was saying there. The correspondence from him is disgraceful, really. It's an admission. It is essential that the department have the ability to use an external contractor to actually perform tasks that we expect to be conducted by the department itself in terms of the maintenance of our roads. It is scandalous that we're handing these contracts over the privateers to make profit and then to have problems around the entire contractual process, and waste of resources around that. Why do we need to even have procurement on this? We can just spend that money that's going to procurement to actually doing the work that should be done in the first place. And the final point just to make, just to come in on the back of what Councillor Wilson said, is another aspect of this cutback privatisation agenda that's coming out of the Stormont executive, is that farmers and other landholders who are smallholders are being expected to do the work that should be done by the public sector and funded through general and progressive taxation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Coffey. And the last one on this subject is Councillor Barry McAduff.
I should have taken down my hand there, sorry, Earl.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McAduff. Maybe bring the Chief Executive in. No, happy enough. Okay, we're pursuing on here, and we're still item or page 5, page 6.
Yes, Chair, just on
Chief Executive.
page 6, a few items. Just firstly, Chair, item 7.4, the correspondence to DAERA in relation to ash dieback disease. Response has been received from the Minister. It's item 8 in the other correspondence folder. And just to note that the undertaking of such studies is a responsibility of landowners as opposed to the department.
Okay, Councillor, you've heard the Chief Executive. Can we have a proposer and seconder to note the correspondence?
Proposed, Chair, Councillor Warrington.
Councillor Warrington, thank you. Seconder?
Councillor Deehan, Chair.
Councillor Deehan, thank you very much. There's not too much to discuss on this, but Councillor O'Coffey's signalling.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's just to come back in, it's almost the exact same thing I was just saying earlier on. Here we have an example where Stormont, instead of actually providing support on ash dieback, which should have been stopped at source, again, it's a disease that's spread because of contamination associated with private sector activities. Here we have a disease that's now killing virtually 97%, I think, of all ash trees, which are millions of trees across the countryside, and it will cause accidents. And the responsibility is yet again going to fall to the smallholder, the farmer, and also the road user who ends up paying the cost potentially through damage to their car or incidents or accidents for privatisation and cutback. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Coffey and Councillor Keenan.
Yeah, I would totally like to record my dissent on that. I think it's a disgrace that the Department from Environment and Agriculture is totally releasing all responsibility of this. If they're serious with the environment and the safety of the people, they need to own up and take
Okay, your
ownership.
comments have been noted. Councillor Irvine.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just a query and a remark made by Councillor Coffey. He's attributing ash dieback totally to the work of the private sector. I'd like to see what research he has to actually back that up. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe Councillor O'Coffey will supply that to you, Councillor Irvine. It's don't think it's a discussion for now. I'll let him forward that research to you. Thank you. Keep it moving on, Chief Executive.
Thank you, Chair. Item 7.5. So we have various items of correspondence in relation to St Mary's High School, Brala. The first from Michelle Gildernew MP indicating her willingness to attend a proposed meeting, collective discussion. Secondly, from the Shared Island Unit on behalf of the Office of the Taoiseach, which is setting out the shared islands, I suppose referencing the meeting that they had with the Council previously and their support to deepen all aspects of North-South cooperation, including in education. We then have letters from, firstly, CCMS, which is in the other correspondence folder, item 3, Chair, and the Department of Education also in the other correspondence folder, item 4. those two letters, Chair, summarise the work previously from the CCMS and the department respectively, and both have concluded that a meeting either with CCMS or the department in relation to options for the school will not be appropriate.
Thank you, Chief Executive. And I know there have been several meetings with regard to St Mary's High School Brala. It's an important subject. A lot of those correspondence are for noting. However, Councillor Corrie wants in.
Yes, Gurmagad Caherly, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just the responses are incredible. I think from the CCMS and the Education Authority, or the department in particular, entirely missing the point. The point, it's not about a school or a building anymore. This is about the children and the families in the area who've had their local secondary education provision removed from them. This is about the complete lack of any credible effort by the CCMS or the Education Department lately. They've done more writing on paper lately than the effort that they put in to really look for sustainable solutions. The idea that they've engaged with the community or indeed with elected reps in any meaningful way is just laughable, really, or it would be if it wasn't so serious. So, you know, I'm not in the habit of using words like demand, but you know, we should be demanding them to engage on our terms, not on their terms, on the community's terms, and not in the closed shop predetermined way that they have been. I think we have agreed previously to act as honest brokers, to act as facilitators with all stakeholders, and we have had some very positive response both last month, and we've had some positive response this month. So I think that we do go ahead with the facilitation of a meeting as originally proposed. We will invite the CCMS, the Department for Education, and I would suggest that we just highlight this to the Education Committee as well. And if they want to snub the local community, if they want to continue to do that, then let them. But we're about trying to find solutions. There is an issue here. This isn't sustainable. And we just need to move forward. And if they don't want to be part of that, that's up to them. That's the proposal, Chair. Gurmagad.
Okay, Councillor Corrie and Councillor Anthony Feely.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll knock it over what Siobhan says, but totally agree with her, and I'll second the proposal. But just in reading that letter from the CCMS, it is very disappointing. As usual, when we get news that we shouldn't be shocked by it, but there's a few lines in about the pupils have been placed in a chosen school. Yeah, that's fair enough. But all staff transitions are also confirmed, which that statement's not right. Some of the staff is still in limbo, doesn't know what's going to happen to them, and they're not noted in the Bible. So as usual, just writing down stuff in, no meaning to it, and just putting down an egg. So some of this is not true. But I'll second Councillor Corrie's proposal. And yeah.
And also, does that include both the proposal and seconder to note the various correspondence on this issue?
Yes, and I think so. Yes.
Happy enough, Corrie. Okay, you've heard the proposal by Councillor Corrie, seconded by Councillor Feely, that the meeting is progressed. We all agreed? There's no dissension, so I'll take it as agreement. Thank you on that one. Chief Executive, any further? No. Okay, on to page 7. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Page 12. Page 13. Page 13, Chief Executive.
Chair, yes, just Mr. McKinley referenced this at the special council meeting on roads matters, but it's just we've attached for your information the formal confirmation of the making of the vesting orders, the bridge orders and the direction orders relating to the Enniskillen Southern Bypass Scheme. So just for information, Chair.
Okay, can we have a proposer and seconder to note that correspondence?
Councillor Armstrong, happy to propose.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Seconder, please. Councillor Erskine, seconded. Thank you. Councillor McAduff, you had your hand up there, and you put it down
Yep.
again.
Thank you, Chair. It is item 13.1, you know, the motion on defibrillators.
We hadn't got that far yet, but I'll let you come
No.
in there on that one now. Go
Thank you.
ahead.
Page 13. Thank you, Chair.
Yep.
That's why I took my hand down, just to let the other matter be resolved first.
Okay.
I know we have an item of correspondence later on from the Education Authority. I wonder would it be appropriate to take that now in association with comments I'd like to make.
Okay, we can do that now. Yeah. Carry on.
Thank you, Chair. Okay. First of all, thanks to everybody who supported that comprehensive motion last month about defibrillators. And I would like to think that in September or October at the RNC meeting that we'll get a report on how, you know, the actions in that motion are being actioned, if you know what I mean. But in relation to the EA letter dated the 15th of July, there's some interesting points back from the EA, and thanks to the Chief Executive for sending that correspondence on the 6th of July. That was very prompt and very helpful. The EA confirms that 233 schools, I presume that's in the region, you know, as a whole, 233 schools procured defibs through the EA's procurement service. Suppose, could I suggest, or could I propose that we write back to the EA asking the following questions? Are all schools in the Fermanagh and Omagh council area equipped with a defibrillator? And also, would the EA consider working with schools where appropriate to locate defibs on the outside of a school building to be of wider value to a community, for example, if that was a good idea? Also, I think it's peculiar that the responsibility to train staff in the use of a defibrillator rests with individual schools. Sometimes I wonder, you know, whenever you hear that a school, a board of governors, has its own independent managing authority, what added value, curriculum and other ways does the EA and the Department of Education offer? So I would ask that we also include there a suggestion that the EA or the Department of Education, and we write to the Minister of Education accordingly, that it becomes the responsibility of the Department of Education and or EA Education Authority to ensure that staff are trained in the use of defibrillators. And also then, in relation to the mapping exercise, I know the council has it on its website, but also the ambulance service has a mapping exercise for defibrillators. If we could do a major feature in the next Info magazine as to where our defibs are in this district, it would be very helpful for people to know. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and I thank you for that, Councillor McAduff. I'm assuming they're referring to right across Northern Ireland on that one, with a number of schools. I suppose one thing that we have to bear in mind is probably a lot after hours. A lot of the schools are gated and fenced, which may prove an issue. Councillor Josephine Dehan.
Thank you, Chair, and I would be supportive of Councillor McAduff's proposal. I wish to second it. I do welcome the willingness expressed in the letter from the EA, you know, to work in conjunction with communities in ensuring that all schools are equipped with defibrillators. I think that with a little bit of imagination, we could find a way to site these defibrillators in a manner that would make them accessible. There are moves already to ensure that sporting facilities can be accessed out of school hours by the local communities. And I hope that this will be the case when we see our shared education campus in Omagh. Defibrillators are life-saving pieces of equipment. They are easy to use and should be fully accessible. And I would support Councillor McAduff's proposal accordingly, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dehan. So you proposed Councillor McAduff and seconded by Councillor Dehan. Are we all agreed? Okay, there's no dissension, so that Proposal has passed. Thank you. Moving on. That was page 13.
Sorry, Chair.
Sorry, Councillor Maguire, you just popped up there.
Sorry, Chair. I believe I made an error at the apologies. I did declare Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald was absent. I believe I meant to say Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly. If that could be corrected in the record, please, Chair. And apologies to Bronor.
That's not a problem. I'm sure our Democratic Services team leader will do that. Thank you. Page 14. Page 15. Page 16. Page 17.
Yes, Chair, page 17.
Chief Executive.
Just a correspondence from Derry City and Strabane District Council regarding a notice of motion which was passed by the council relating to rights of nature. Obviously, Chair, very similar to the motion which our own council adopted at the meeting on the 5th of July. So we'd be suggesting that correspondence noted.
Okay, and it's self-explanatory. It should be noted. So, proposer and seconder to note, please. Proposer and seconder to note.
Chair, I have my hand up here.
Yes, so I want a note first there, Councillor
I'm
McAleer.
happy to note it. Just disappointed, unfortunately, that the
sorry, can we
department has
just
been included.
sorry,
on some
sorry,
lobby
Councillor
bits,
McAleer.
but I'm happy to
Sorry,
note the
McAleer.
receipt of the.
Councillor
the-
McAleer. Councillor McAleer, don't talk over me, please. Are you proposing to note? And I
Chair,
take it Councillor
respect
Ki-
is a two-way
Yeah.
street. I am
Well, I am
proposing to note. If
respecting
you
you.
hadn't have talked over me, you would have heard that.
No, don't talk for me. Now, let's have a wee bit of courtesy, please.
Exactly,
Councillor McAleer,
Chair.
you're proposing to note, is Councillor Keenan seconding the note, and then I'll bring you in and make your comments. If you just have a bit of patience. Thank you. So I take it you're proposing the note, Councillor McAleer?
Yes, Chair.
Seconder?
Yeah.
Councillor
I second
Keenan?
it, yeah.
Okay, now make your comments now, Councillor McAleer.
Yes, Chair, it was a very brief comment, just expressing disappointment that both the department and a number of lobby groups have been included as an amendment on the Derry and Strabane motion, but very happy to note that they have led the way on this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McAleer. And Councillor Keenan, have you any other comments to make?
Yeah, I'm just happy enough to note it and congratulate Derry and Strabane District Council for also passing it, yeah. Hopefully more will follow.
Okay, and we're all agreed with the noting. No dissension. Thank you. Page 17. Page 18. Councillor Keenan, can you take your hand down, please? Thank you. Page 19. Page 20. And page 21. Thanking you for that. Okay, on to item 6, and it's matters arising from special council meeting on the 19th of July 2021. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8. Sorry, Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's in relation to page 7 there, and the recorded vote just on those who propose to proceed and allow the permitted development rights be granted to drill these new 17 boreholes after, I suppose, not having a final confirmation of what was already drilled on site. And it's in relation to yesterday we had a meeting of the Climate Change Resilience Group. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend due to family matters, but there are 4 members of the Climate Change Resilience Group who voted to allow permitted development rights to be granted to an unsustainable industry. And there was another report this morning on the BBC about how we are in the midst of a climate crisis. So what I would like to propose is that the 4 members who voted in favour of allowing permitted development rights in the midst of a climate crisis actually remove themselves from the climate change resilience group, or are removed by their parties or the chair of the group, because I think it's quite evident that they're incapable of carrying out both their roles with such favourable actions towards the minerals industry and the unsustainable extractive industry. So I'd like to make that as a formal proposal, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McAleer. I'm assuming that'll be for the group leaders of the various parties to make that decision. However,
sorry, Chair.
Councillor Keenan.
Sorry, Chair. Could I just? Sorry, Chair.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, just the councillors in question just are Councillor Adam Gannon, Councillor Deborah Erskine, Councillor Alex Baird, and Councillor John McCloughery. Just they're the 4 councillors in question of the overlap. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Keenan.
Yeah, well, I suppose the climate crisis and the climate, sort of a situation we need to take seriously. And if councillors aren't taking it seriously and they're not on the side of the environment, I'd definitely like to second. I think it's a good motion. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm sure others will defend themselves. Councillor Donald O'Coffey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just would have to add my voice to the concerns, really, that that every one of us, you have to close your eyes and hide in a cave not to see that we're already living through a period of climate change, and it really is quite scary and horrific if we fully grasp the implications, and already people are dying in large numbers around the world as a result of this. How that is in any way coherent with destructive industries, really poisonous industries such as the mining, the gold mining industry, which really creates nothing, only a store of capitalist value, and then the likes of fracking. I think any one of us who supposedly has an inclination to defend the environment, or actually fight for a future for humanity and for all the other life forms on this planet, we have to really ask yourself a question about how you stand in relation to these destructive and toxic, unsustainable sectors. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Deborah Erskine.
Chair, I hope you can hear me okay.
Loud and clear.
My connection just has been going in and out tonight, unfortunately. I am going to defend myself, and I think it's quite out of order for any councillor in this chamber to question me or any other member of that group and the way that they voted. I am allowed to have my particular opinion, and I am allowed to vote in whatever way I want to vote. I never question or bring into question other councillors and how they vote, and to say that I am incapable of being in that group is downright disgusting and rude. And I would ask Councillor Emmett McAleer to take that back, because I strongly refute the accusations and what he has said tonight in this council meeting. I find it wholly inappropriate, and I am very disappointed that a councillor should come on to this forum and make those comments tonight. I have never, ever questioned his ability in this council chamber, and I am disappointed tonight that he has used this as a stunt, and it is a stunt for his own gain. So no, I will not be removing myself from that committee, and I hope and I know that my group will not be doing the same either. I have a voice in this council chamber, and I have a voice in that group. So I hope that Councillor Emmett McAleer takes back what he has said tonight in relation to myself and other councillors on that group. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Erskine, for making those comments. And I'll take the other councillors as they're listed here. Councillor Adam Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brutally honest, it's a bit of a joke of a proposal, Chair. I think the councillor has to echo Councillor Erskine's comments and possibly put it a bit stronger. What a load of nonsense. It's a bit of a stunt. at the end of the day. How you vote on planning matters is all very different because you've got legality concerns to consider. But given in the first place that we wouldn't even have a climate change resilience group if I hadn't proposed it, I will most definitely be staying on it, Chair, and attending the meetings of it to try and do a bit of good for it, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gallen. Councillor Robert Irvine.
I think the previous two councillors have pretty well made clear what I want to say as well. But the question I would pose back to Councillor McAleer, he actually attended that council meeting. I challenged him with regard to his deeply expressed views against these dirty extractive industries, as he says. And he said, no, he's coming forward with no predetermination in regard to the matter at hand. I would refute that now. I think exactly what he has said here shows a predisposition completely against this, and he cannot have an open mind. If he cares to try and provide evidence otherwise, I'll be prepared to hear it. But I think from now on, it's plain to be seen he doesn't like them, and he can't have an open mind at all. And the same might go for Councillor O'Cofaigh. He said he had no predisposition against them, but he seems now to be falling down on the side of Councillor McAleer and totally against them, and he won't listen to reason or anything else in regard to planning issues. So I'll leave it at that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Councillor Alex Baird.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's interesting that Councillor McAleer is, as usual, grandstanding and using the opportunity for the media. He could have been at that meeting yesterday of the Climate Change Resilience Group. He given some sort of a weak excuse for not being there, but he could have raised those matters there. But obviously the media wouldn't have been available to take that on board and massage his ego. I must admit, there's a certain amount of hypocrisy in this chamber going around about mining various minerals and precious metals. I happened to take a look around the chamber when we had a live meeting last week, and it was remarkable how many people were wearing precious metal on the third finger left hand or around the neck. I'm not mentioning any names, but it's just unfortunate we're not in a live meeting where people put their hand up and show the hypocrisy of opposing gold mining and other precious metals. To me, it seems in the case, it's a bit of a NIMBYism, not in my backyard. It's all right if somebody else gets it, and I'll take it on board. Leave it at that, Chair. Cheerio.
Thank you, Councillor Baird. Councillor Victor Warrington.
Thanks, Chair. I'll be brief. I just wanted to check but an explanation, please. It is my understanding that the meeting last week, which I wasn't at, I couldn't attend, was basically just to permit the planning for exploratory drilling, and at the end of the day, if there's anything found or any other metals or whatever found, then it'll be subject to further planning requirements. And as the previous speakers have said, it's pure just let's play to the media, pure grandstanding. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to let you come on again, Councillor McAleer, to answer for yourself.
Yes, Chair, there's been quite a number of scurrilous accusations made, but I suppose I should expect little else from those councillors who want to get up on their hobby horse now when I raise
Okay, now don't be getting personal there now.
Well, Chair, there actually were a number of quite personal things said there, but seemingly when it's aimed at myself or other independents.
Well, you named, sorry, Councillor, you named councillors. So
yes,
you're getting personal
absolutely.
there.
And
okay,
at the end of the
say
day,
your
we'll
comments.
be judged on our actions, not our words. So I have no intention of removing my statement. I stand over it, and the actions of those councillors or the inactions of their councillors actually says a lot more than my words tonight ever could. I think it's disgraceful, their behaviour, and it's disgraceful their lack of owning up and responsibility of their behaviour. But just to come back on a number of points that were raised, in relation to Councillor Bard, my wedding ring is reclaimed.
Sorry, Councillor Baird. Councillor Baird.
Oh, apologies, Chair. Councillor Baird. My wedding ring is reclaimed silver, as is my wife's. It was ethically sourced from recycled material. So if he's a problem with that, it's something that maybe he should look into himself. In relation to the erroneous claims of Councillor Irvine, when he says that I have a predisposition and the Councillor O'Coffey has a predisposition, he's actually once for right. We do, and we stated on the night we have a predisposition. What we don't have and what we didn't have on the night was a predetermination. And if he had have been paying attention at the training, he would know the difference between the two. We listened to the facts on the night. We were given a number of presentations which explained the danger and the threat to water, to local fish, the noise complaints that were going to local houses, starting at 7 a.m. every day of the week, including Saturday. How that was deemed acceptable is simply beyond me. But yet, here we have a number of councillors once again jumping to the defence of the minerals industry. And again, Councillor Gannon of the SDLP, whose successive ministers have supported hand in glove the minerals industry, from Alex Atwood to Mark H. Durkin to now Nicola Mallon, and the atrocious sand dredging and continuation.
Your time is running out there, Councillor McAleer. Bring your comments to a close.
The public aren't stupid and they won't be fooled. They can see what people do by their actions, and it's not simple words or mock or full outrage on a night like tonight that's going to sway anyone. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I'm now going to bring the Chief Executive in. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. It's really just to clarify a matter that Councillor McAleer raised. All the papers and reports obviously are available publicly and on decision time, but all of these statutory consultees, including those in relation to water, noise and other matters raised by Councillor McAleer, confirmed they were satisfied with the proposals and did not raise any concerns with the proposals. So just to correct that matter, Chair.
Thank you for the clarification, Chief Executive. I know there is a proposal has been made and it has been seconded, duly seconded. And I do sense dissension within the chamber. I'm just going to put that to the vote now. Are we all agreed with
Chair, sorry. No.
No.
Point of order, Chair.
Recorded vote, Chair.
Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. Can you have a motion dictating who a party nominates to a group? Can a councillor bring for example, bring a motion saying, oh, Councillor Thompson, you cannot be on planning, for example? Just maybe the Chief Executive could provide clarity on that.
The Chief Executive will clarify the legal position.
Yeah. No, Chair, happy to do so, and I think you had mentioned it in your original comments. The positions in question are for the parties to determine who represents them on the various working groups within the council. Obviously, individual members can make their own decisions, Chair, but where these are party nominations, they are nominated on behalf of the party, and should there be any changes, the nominating officers will advise us accordingly. But no, it would not be appropriate, or there'd be no mechanism by which another member could dictate who would participate on a group of the council, Chair.
Sorry, Chair. So just therefore, surely this motion is inadmissible at this stage.
Just sorry, Councillor Gannon, it's a proposal and a seconder. It's not a motion. Just for the clarification on that
proposal, one. Yes. Surely, given what the Chief Executive said, this can't be voted on, surely.
No, well, I'm just taking my advice there from the Chief Executive. My understanding is it can't be voted on now. Because of her comments that she's clarified the legal position on it. So thank you. So therefore that falls. Page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15, and page 16. Okay. Please bear in mind, councillors, that we're getting held up big time here in the agenda. We're now moving on to item 7, and it's to confirm the minutes of the Environmental Services Committee meeting held on the 6th of July 2021. And that is for accuracy. Page 1, page 2. Councillor Bert Wilson. Councillor Wilson.
Sorry, Chair, it's really to comment later on. Thank you.
No, you can take your hand down now. Come in when you need to. Okay.
Yep.
Page 2, this is for accuracy. Page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, and page 14. Councillor Buchanan, do you wish to propose
Wish to propose? Yes, Chair. Thank
the
you.
adoption of the minutes? Have you a seconder? Seconder for the adoption? Councillor
I
Wilson?
second, Chair. Councillor Warrington.
Councillor Warrington is seconded. And we're all agreed?
Chair, could I comment, please?
Not at this time. Not at this time.
Why not?
Okay there.
Why can I not?
Well, if you're bringing it up in matters arising,
Yeah.
we have the committee to deal with that.
Well, if that's the way it is, that's I want to speak on behalf of some of my constituents. Just that's the only reason that I wanted to speak.
We have to keep going on, Councillor.
Yeah, some of my constituents can't understand how 15% can overrule 85% and destroy community relations as well, Chair.
Chief Executive.
Yeah, Chair. Members will be aware the adoption of the minutes takes place at the council meeting. Matters arising are dealt with at the committee meeting. So the matters Councillor Wilson is referencing would be dealt with appropriately at the next committee meeting, Chair.
Happy with that, Councillor Wilson?
Not really, but obviously that's the rules and regulations, so I'll have to abide by that.
Okay, thank you for that. On to item 8, and it's to confirm the minutes of the Regeneration Community Committee meeting held on the 7th of July 2021, paper D, and it's for accuracy. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, and page 15. Councillor Warrington, you wish to propose the adoption of the minutes, Mr. Chair?
I propose the adoption, Chair.
Okay,
Seconded,
Councillor
Chair.
Josephine Dayton the second. All agreed? Thank you. Moving on to item 9, and to confirm the minutes of the Policy and Resources Committee meeting held on the 8th of July 2021, paper E, and is for accuracy. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11,
Carry her in there and look after her. Well, go and get washed.
sorry, there's a bit of interference there. Go on to mute, please. Page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15, page 16, page 17, page 18, page 19, page 20, page 21, and page 22. Councillor Howard Thornton.
Happy to propose adoption of the minutes, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thornton. Seconder, Councillor Bert Wilson.
Chair, no, I'm not seconding it. I'm just speaking on behalf of the farming community that they're really.
No, can't allow that. Sorry.
That the council.
Sorry, Councillor.
Council really.
Councillor Wilson.
It shows
Councillor
what they think
Wilson,
of their
please
interests.
respect
Yeah,
the chair.
Okay.
Sorry, Councillor.
Yes, I do respect
the chair.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Have we got a seconder for the minutes of the Policy and Resources Committee?
Councillor Armstrong, happy to second.
Councillor Diana Armstrong, and all agreed. Thank you. Okay, can we have a proposer and seconder to go into committee?
Proposed, Chair.
Proposed by Councillor
McCann.
Councillor McCann, proposed and seconded by Councillor Mary Garrity. Okay. We'll just take a moment now. Okay, thank you. And now I will bring the Chief Executive in to just give a resume of what took place in confidential business.
Thank you, Chair. While in confidential business, the Council confirmed and signed the confidential minutes of the Council meeting held on the 5th of July 2021, and there were no matters arising from those minutes. And the Council also confirmed the confidential minutes of the Environmental Services Committee meeting held on the 6th of July and the confidential minutes of the Policy and Resources Committee meeting held on the 9th of July, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. Can we have a proposer and seconder? Councillor Mark Buchanan. Seconder, please. Councillor Paul Blake. And all agreed. Thank you. Okay, moving swiftly on, and please, we're going to try and get this meeting done this evening. For certainly, we're not going into August with it, so let's go. On to item 10, and it's correspondence 10.1.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, there's a series of linked correspondence here. So firstly, letter of reply from the Palestinian ambassador regarding the Council's adoption of the recent motion that's dated the 7th of July, that correspondence. Secondly, from the Police Service of Northern Ireland regarding the partnerships that it has in place with the Israeli security forces and their response on that matter, Chair. A response from the Policing Board, which references that matter with that the matter was also raised by the Policing Board members with the Chief Constable, and noting that we will be receiving a separate response. And finally, Chair, linked to this in your other correspondence folder, item 10.13 is a response from Newry Morning Down District Council referencing a similar motion which its council adopted on the 7th of June.
Okay, councillors, really a lot of this for noting, and I see councillors have indicated they wish to speak. Please keep your comments very brief and succinct and to the point. Councillor Mark Buchanan.
Chair, thank you. It's just apologies. I should have declared an interest in item 10.9 correspondence, please, if I can do that. And just also to confirm if there was an apology recorded for Councillor Robinson, please. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, that has been recorded at the beginning of the meeting, and thank you for that declaration of interest, Councillor Buchanan. Councillor Eamon Keenan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, I'll be as brief as I can, but I have a few points to speak on it, and hopefully I will be afforded the 3 minutes, as most other councillors are, before I'm shouted down about no my comments, please.
We'll carry on now. Do we hear what you're going to say?
Thanks very much. Well, firstly, from the letter, there are a number of things that have probably raised more questions for me than answers.
Which letter are you? Sorry, which letter are you referring to now?
It's the second letter from the PSNI, the second one there.
Okay.
Yeah, so probably raised more questions than answers for me. And the first thing is the PSNI's explanation of what Roxanne is and what it's used for. They say it's a real-time network, text, speaker, analytics for combating organised crime. When I researched it further, sources were saying it's for combating crime, organised crime and terrorism, which would seem fair enough, but If we asked any Palestinian in Gaza, the West Bank, Sheikh Jarrah, about the origins of terrorism in their area, then it's quite possible that they would say it's the very government, military, and the so-called law enforcement agency of Israel that our so-called police force, impartial police force, are happy to work with, and they see no justification to withdraw from this working relationship. So I just done a wee bit of looking on official figures from UN state from March 2018 to March 2019, 271 Palestinians were killed, 29,187 were injured, and at least 41 of those fatalities were children. This year, so far, 256 Palestinians have been killed, of which 66 were children. If this had have happened elsewhere, it would be described as genocide. And if this isn't enough, a good enough reason for the PSNI to stop the participation in these so-called security projects with Israel, then I'd like to know what is enough. Another point was made in the letter about the wider questions about the cooperation with Israel and about it being a matter for the UK government and the EU. Well, this point I find very strange because, number one, policing in the north of Ireland is supposed to be a devolved matter, and I would like the views of maybe the group leaders in this talk to explain their views on this, but the police officer in question doesn't seem to think so. The second thing is about
40
the matter,
seconds.
yeah, of it being a matter for the EU. Well, as of this year, due to Brexit, we are no longer members of the EU, except for some special arrangements around the border protocol. So yes, a lot of strange answers, a few questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Keelan. Councillor Coffey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm just reading this, and it is genuinely concerning. We all aware of the implications and the involvement of the Israeli Defense Forces in issues which, for example, Human Rights Watch has recently included war crimes such as the killing of 72 civilians in targeted bombing only recently. And I would be hugely concerned, obviously, with arrangements within which the EU are collaborating with the Israeli Defense Forces, and the EU police services and intelligence agencies are working hand in glove with Israeli forces who are guilty of these crimes. So I'm very particularly concerned, obviously, the PSNI are involved in it, or the guards either side of the border, obviously. And it's just not acceptable. And frankly, I have to ask the question about democratic oversight. There's a claim in the PSNI correspondence which states that this is based on ethical, observation and listening to people's conversations and so on. I don't really believe in that being ethical unless there's democratic oversight. So I think that we need to ask questions of this, and I would propose that we would go back to the PSNI and ask them what form of democratic oversight is involved in these other activities where they listen to people's conversations and hack their emails. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Caller user 2, can you please identify yourself? Calling user 2. Calling user 2, please identify yourself.
Hello, Sean Clark here.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Emmett McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start by commending the responses from the Ambassador and similarly the motion passed by Newry Morning District Council. I simply find the response from the PSNI breathtaking in its ignorance and its lack of humanity. The response in the first paragraph of the letter, that the reply is consistent with the answer given to a policing board member who raised the question, and then goes on to list details about the project that they're involved in, doesn't actually answer the question that's been posed. They state in the closing paragraph, to date, we have not identified a justifiable reason to withdraw from the project as it continues to demonstrate a strong ethical basis. Similarly, absolutely gobsmacked to read that the superintendent who has replied to this, and not the chief constable who didn't deem it worthy of his time, is unbelievable. even yesterday, there was an 11-year-old Palestinian child shot in the back seat of his father's car in Hebron. The fact that that can be deemed as ethical behaviour in any way is absolutely disgusting. And I think the PSNI and their representatives should be completely ashamed and embarrassed by what they've actually sent on to the council here this evening. And
40
similarly,
seconds, sir,
the
Councillor.
Gardaí aren't escaped either here. They feel that it's a project with principle and integrity, which is completely unbelievable. So I think picking up on the line in the letter from the policing board, which concludes that the PSNI's participation in these projects is an operational decision by the Chief Constable. We respond to the Chief Constable because we haven't received a reply from the Gardaí, asking him to reevaluate and reassess that, considering, and just if you'll allow me to make this point, considering that the concerns raised over Project Roxanne have been shared, and the European Commission, as we understand it, are actually currently reviewing that process. So I would urge that they reevaluate and make that as a formal proposal, Chair. Thank you for allowing me that bit of extra leeway there.
Thank you. Councillor Siobhan Curry.
Yes, Gormaga Carley, yeah, I would agree with a lot of what's being said. I would just say maybe the proposal, and excuse me if it was said, but just not just contacting the police service, but the policing board as well, just around those issues of oversight. I just had another query though around the BDS, and I know that this council in a previous mandate had passed a motion on BDS, and I think there was various back and forth on it, just around equality assessments. I know that it had been discussed in group leaders meetings when those were taking place, but I'm just wondering if it's possible to get an update on where that actually is now, because I just don't recall us receiving any update. And if memory serves me correctly, the last time that we were discussing it, it already had been an awful long time at that stage, waiting for the legal opinion, and there was some discussion about going elsewhere for that. So could I ask just maybe Alison just to provide an update? Maybe she doesn't have that available now, but if not, can it be brought to the next meeting, please? Chair.
I'll thank you, Councillor Curry. I'll invite the Chief Executive to comment.
Yeah, Chair, I think Councillor Curry's recollection is correct. There have been a couple of previous reports through. Further advice was also sought, and we could, if Councillor Curry's content, we can certainly bring the detail of that. The appropriate committee would be Policy and Resources, but and I know there was discussion at it actually at a recent meeting there as well, so we could bring that to the September Policy and Resources Committee, Chair.
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Curry.
Yeah, happy with that, Gormaga. Thank you.
Okay, before we move on this one, there's 3 pieces of correspondence, and I want them proposed and seconded to note. First of all, sorry, 4 pieces, and we're proposing seconded. They're noted.
Chair, I'll propose the note in there, Councillor McAleer.
Yeah, Councillor McAleer, of this seconder. Councillor Irvine seconded, and we're all agreed with the noting. Okay, and there were further, there were 2 proposals made there, one by Councillor O'Coffey, and I believe that Councillor McAleer was hoping to second. Can you second it, Councillor McAleer?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, happy to second that.
And you made a proposal yourself, Councillor McAleer, second proposal on that discussion. Have we a seconder?
I'll second that, yeah.
Councillor Keenan for seconding. Are we all agreed with the 2 proposals which were made during that discussion and those subjects?
No. Chair, would you clarify what they are, please?
Well, I'll ask the proposers to come in and clarify exactly what they're proposing. Thank you, Councillor Baird, for that. Councillor O'Coffey.
Yes, Chair. I propose that we write to. I think Councillor Curry actually added an amendment that we would write to. But I'm happy to accept it, of course. That we would write the PSNI and the police board to request how they interpret the word ethical that's in the reply in relation to these matters and the involvement of the Israeli
state forces, as well as the other thing is to explain how, to what extent there is democratic oversight to this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So, and that was duly seconded by Councillor McAleer. Councillor McAleer, can you outline your proposal again?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it was in relation to the final line or closing line from the policing board, sorry, which states that the ultimate decision rests with the chief constable. I suppose it was expressing the disappointment that he didn't deal with it first off, and given even the recent murder of the 11-year-old child in Palestine, how he can maintain that this is an ethical way to proceed with business. So it's really reiterating our discontent with the response that we've received and pressing the PSNI to take action. Obviously, we haven't received a response from An Garda Síochána just yet, so we'll see how that pans out. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McAleer. Okay, we'll take the first proposal first of all, and that's Councillor Coffey's proposal, and it's been duly seconded by Councillor McAleer. Are we all agreed?
No.
No. We have dissension in the ranks. Can we have a show of hands, those who support, who are voting for Councillor O'Coffey's proposal? We're just trying to work. So this is for Councillor Coffey's proposal, seconded by Councillor McAleer. Okay, that's 18 for. Those against? All hands down, first of all, and then those against. Right, the people who have voted for Councillor O'Coffey's proposal, can they take their hands down? This is now those against. That proposal by Councillor O'Coffey, seconded by Councillor McAleer, is carried. That was 18 to 10 votes. Okay. Now we move on to our second proposal. Can everybody remove their hands again? Take your hands down, please. And this
Chair,
is
on point of order, Chair.
Okay.
Just to be aware, Chair, that not everybody has access to the hands function. So just to be aware of that, anybody who's calling in, for example, doesn't have that facility. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Councillor McAleer's proposal, and it's seconded by Councillor Raymond Keenan. Those for, please raise your hands. Okay, that's 18 for. Can those hands be removed? Taken down, please. Make sure they're all gone. Can we have those who are against Councillor McAleer's proposal? Okay, so Councillor McAleer's proposal, seconded by Councillor Keenan, 18 for and 11 against. Therefore, The proposal has been carried. Thank you for your cooperation. And all those have been noted, and the 2 votes have been taken. Thank you. Take your hands down now, please. Thank you. Moving on to the next piece of correspondence, and it's 10.2. Chief
Yes.
Executive.
Thanks, Chair. This is correspondence from the Planning Appeals Commission, and this relates to planning application from Dalradian Gold. And the applicant has now lodged an appeal with the Commission against the Council, and this is really around the right within the legislation for applications to be determined by the PAC Chair. So this really is for information. The Council is required to comply, and the information is being that we hold is being collated and submitted as required.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Can we have a proposer and seconder for noting the correspondence?
Proposed, Chair, Councillor Erskine.
Councillor Deborah Erskine proposed. Have a seconder.
Councillor Warrington.
Councillor Victor Warrington. All agreed with the noting? Okay.
Chair, I'm not happy to note it. No.
Okay, your comments have been noted, Councillor McAleer. You wish to
yeah,
you wish to speak there now? Okay.
Please, thank you. Yeah, it's in relation to this and I suppose Dalradian's obvious attempt to follow in the footsteps of Flintridge and try and circumvent the planning process. My understanding is that this project needs a full environmental impact assessment development, and it's not a simple matter. It needs a full EIA assessment. Planning permission was granted in 2014, controversially, on the proviso of a strict 3-year and robust adherence to conditions. This is now 2021, so we're into year 7 or 8. Fermanagh and Omagh District Council has already been reprimanded in court by Judge Humphreys for failing to regulate and enforce such matters. But Fermanagh and Omagh Planning and Council have been made aware of the catalogue of issues with this application and with the parent application. All the issues and mishandling of the same would be opened up should Fermanagh and Omagh District Council approve and proceed with this. I have to say that our planning department has embarked on the right and proper course of action with enforcement. It would be worse than reckless of members to decide any other course of action, and I think that's what we need to note here, is that this is trying to work its way around that. I'm aware that in November 2020, last November, planning wrote to Dalradian to actually say that they were enforcing or moving to enforcement because they have exceeded the initial 3-year grace period they were given in 2014, and they haven't given a reason why they should be permitted to work around that. Similarly, they still haven't done that to planning, and they're trying to get around that by going to the PAC before council has actually made official the decision that planning has taken. It's absolutely disgraceful, but it's the games that these extractivist companies use. We need to set the tone here, and we have to urge planning. I know we've called on them before to look into this, to evaluate what the process is. I'm imagining that their determination or their decision hasn't changed, and I know they can proceed with enforcement prior to the PAC judgment. So I would be proposing that planning do indeed do that. So that's my proposal, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure where the previous speaker was going to with giving us the history. Surely the fact that the PSC has taken over this planning application now, and it is now away completely from the council to make any further decisions. I would have thought that would have been the end of it, but I think, again, as it was highlighted earlier, some councillors just like to obviously get the media attention by still creating narratives that maybe aren't even there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Warrington. Councillor Eamon Keenan.
Yeah, well, I would sort of disagree with Victor there. I don't think it's creating narratives that aren't there. The fact is that planning was approved in 2013 for 3 years, which left it 2016. That's 5 years out of date, I think. I'd like to second the proposal, and yes, enforcement is necessary and the right thing to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that.
Chair, I'll just comment.
Okay, Chief Executive.
Chair, I know we've commented previously on similar matters, but just to advise, enforcement cannot be directed by the council. What does happen is obviously in terms of any planning matter, planning applications, the sites are reviewed, they're kept under active review in terms of our planning staff, but it's just to advise that the council cannot direct enforcement action to take place.
Okay, Councillor Coffey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a question really on the basis of what the Chief Executive has said there. It really does draw significant concern really insofar as what is the point of having enforcement if we can't actually enforce? If there is a continuous breach of, and it's not obviously the first instance of planning being, our regulations or rulings having been breached, and if we don't enforce, where's the democratic oversight of that decision? We surely should enforce our own planning decisions as a council. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, Chair.
Thank you, Chief Executive.
No, I think we're maybe at cross purposes. That's quite correct, Councillor Coffey. My point merely was that the council cannot direct that we find enforcement proceedings. We will continue to implement our scheme of enforcement. If there are breaches, they will be investigated, they will be pursued, but you can't direct enforcement failings to be found. So certainly to confirm, we will, through our planning department, be investigating any site or indeed any breach or perceived breach of planning matters, and they will be actioned accordingly.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Okay, Councillor McAleer, you're putting something in on message there. Can you?
Yeah, thank you for letting me back in, Chair. It's just a very quick question or clarification then in relation to, and I mentioned this whenever I was speaking, in relation to planning. They had previously been asked to follow up on what the latest was in terms of enforcement, because I am aware that that can proceed prior to any judgment by the PAC. And like the whole point of this is that if planning do nothing and allow Dalradian to continue with business as usual in an area where it has to be noted they currently don't have planning permission, they don't have a prospecting license, and they don't have the support of the community that they're working in, that they're allowed to carry on with business as usual and kick the can down the road and let somebody else decide. Where this council is the planning authority for the area and should be the one making the first call. If the department or the planning application or the planning appeals committee want to review that, that's completely up to them.
Your points have been well made. The Chief Executive
Yeah.
has given her clarification on the issue. Maybe let her come back in if she has anything else to say on
Well,
it.
it's just to advise, Chair, that general reports are presented in relation to enforcement matters to the Planning Committee. We do not, however, provide individual details of enforcement cases, which are in themselves regulatory in the public domain. Members are aware of that. So the appropriate forum for planning enforcement reports, considerations will be through the Planning Committee. And we certainly don't identify at any point any individual case.
Okay, I think coming from the Chief Executive, that clarification, I think we move on from this issue.
Chair, can I just, and it's one line just?
We're moved on.
We're leaving ourselves open to legal challenge, Chair, and that's beyond
Thank you. You made your comments. Thank you.
Well, Chair, I'm recording my dissent from the decision, absolutely.
Thank you.
Dissent here, Chair.
Okay, your comments have been noted. Your dissents.
Dissent.
And the three of you have been noted. Okay, moving on. Item 10.3 in its correspondence from the Arts Council.
Yes, Chair, just for noting positive response from the Arts Council regarding the Council's correspondence regarding potential filmmaking locations, and work is underway with the Arts Council officials in terms of potential memorandum of understanding, and we will be reporting that hopefully, Chair, to the September Regeneration and Community Committee.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Can we propose and second a note?
Proposed, Chair.
Councillor McAduff, seconded. Councillor Wilson, are you seconding the noting?
Yes, Chair, I'm seconding that.
Okay, thank you. It's good use. Thank you.
Matters and related to the letter.
Sorry,
Chair.
Councillor McAduff, are you coming back in? Okay.
Yeah, very brief. Thank you, Chair. I presume the memorandum of understanding is nothing to do with potential filmmaking locations, that it's an unrelated matter, as stated by Roisin McDonough, the Chief Executive of the Arts Council. And you know, on the substantive issue of engaging the Arts Council on, our suitability for Mananoma district as a location for filmmaking, maybe we weren't throwing the dart at the right place on the dartboard. I'm just wondering, and if we haven't done this, can I propose that we write to Richard Williams and Rotha Johnston, Chief Executive and Chair, respectively, of NI Screen, and ask our council officials, either in the economic development section or the arts section, to engage with them as to how we can make the case better, how we can work up the case for attracting films to our council district, all the locations that we have on offer, because there's certainly real jobs at the end of this rainbow if we chase it, Chair. So NI Screen is probably the more appropriate entity within government, within the public sector, to lobby in relation to bettering ourselves from a council point of view to be ready for film making opportunities. Thank you, Chair. I would propose accordingly.
If I may. Chair,
Chief Executive.
Yeah, it's just to confirm to Councillor McAleer, two fronts. Yes, the memorandum of understanding came actually as a result of the presentations to the council. It was an unrelated matter, but just to confirm, and as referenced in the letter, we have actually made those similar representations already to Northern Ireland Screen. It was to Mr. Williams. They weren't copied to Rotha Johnson, but that could certainly be actioned. But the original letter was sent to Northern Ireland Screen.
Happy enough with that, Councillor McAuliffe, then? You don't need the proposal.
Thank you, Chair and Chief Executive. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief Executive. Councillor Chris McCarthy.
Thanks, Chair. Well, I was going to second Councillor McAuliffe's proposal there, but Alison, Chief Executive, has given the comments on that. So I was hoping to expand slightly on it. I do know Alison may have recalled a conversation we had sometime last year in and around production companies aiming to set up in the Fermanagh around the border regions, as there are such a large availability of sites right across our council district, of course, to film in. But I wonder if there's anything we can do as a local government authority to attract production companies as well as films that actually use the amenities we have here. I know one producer had came to me looking to investigate a feasibility study into setting up a production company with Cavan, Leitrim and Fermanagh. And I know that he had written to NI Screen as well, as I believe. But I wonder just if there's anything we could do as a local government authority to perhaps influence that as well.
Thank you, Councillor McCaffrey. I'll maybe bring the Chief Executive on to comment.
Yeah, Chair, I think there is, it's something that perhaps we should do a little bit more research into and report back to you on, because some areas have been quite effective. I know there was some suggestions, and the proposal that Councillor McCaffrey's referencing, that there may indeed be some financial incentives available for our particular area, and the potential for cross-border cooperation could actually attract some of the European funds as well. So I think there is bound to be more that we can be doing, but maybe if Councillor McAleer would be content, we could review, or sorry, Councillor McCaffrey be content, we could review that, Chair, report back ideally to the September meeting of Regeneration and Community. We had certainly done some work previously, but we could refresh that and also maybe get some advice from particularly colleagues in Belfast who have done particularly well through the work that's underway at Titanic Studios and similar sites.
Okay, thank you, Chief Executive.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Alison. Yeah, I'm happy with that, and I was thinking of the Titanic success myself whenever I was in reference to that. So yeah, happy enough for that to be brought back at the next.
Yeah, points well made there, Councillor McCaffrey. Thank you, Councillor Howard Thornton.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it talks about the memorandum of understanding. I'd like to compliment the officers in the council that since our informal meeting with the Arts Council, relationships have developed. Certainly at the Arts Forum, it was very useful to hear the progress that had been made in the meantime with regard to grants and so on. I'm just hoping that maybe could be shared with other councillors, but I do compliment the officers for the work that they have engaged with the Arts Forum.
Thank you, Councillor Thornton. Maybe Chief Executive.
Certainly, Chair, the intention would be when we would have a document that I suppose that we would be comfortable would reflect both the council's expectations of this work and also that would be suitable from an Arts Council perspective. We would include that detail and bring that to you within that overall report. And I would also just well thank Councillor Thorne for his comments, but I must say our experience from an officer perspective has been a positive one, and I do think the Arts Council is keen to work in a different way with the council moving forward.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Happy enough, Councillor Thornton?
Very happy with that, Chair. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. And last up on this one is Councillor Emmett McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. I think I was getting credit for Councillor Michael Duff's work there. I'm just a query in relation to, obviously we've sent the letter here to the Arts Council. I'm wondering, have Fee Sharon, which is the Screen Ireland, been contacted in relation to something similar? If not, I would propose maybe that we do so. And I think just it would be remiss when we're talking about filming and film production companies when we have 6 Mile Hill Productions as one based in the Mid Tyrone area and is a very successful one as well. It is, it's a local industry and it's a growing industry, and it's one definitely that we should be encouraged to support, and anything we can do to support it using obviously the splendour and the great backdrops that we have in this district is something that we should be grasping. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McAleer. You made that a proposal. Have you a seconder for Councillor McAleer's proposal?
I'll second that, Chair. Barry here.
Councillor Barry McAduff, we all agreed? Okay, I'm not seeing any dissension on the chamber, so thank you for that. Moving on now to 10.4, and it's correspondence from the Department of Transport regarding A5 Western Transport Corridor public inquiry.
Yes.
Executive.
Thank you, Chair. There's just 2 items. The first is, as you have referenced, from the Department of Transport, but we also, in your other correspondence folder, have a response as well from the Minister for Infrastructure's office. So that's item 6 in the other correspondence folder. So firstly, in terms of Minister Ryan's letter, Chair, just setting out the update from the Irish government's perspective and noting the joint communique issued and the continued commitment to the A5 scheme. And then Minister Mallon's office's letter is really dealing with the council's concerns regarding the expenditure to date on consultants' fees, and reiterates the groundwork that has already been undertaken, but also then does reiterate the fact that the scheme is a flagship for the Stormont Executive as well as for the Minister's Department. So just thought to view the 2 maybe in tandem, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive. First of all, we can have a proposer and seconder to note the both pieces of correspondence. Councillor Josephine Dehan, seconder, come on, Councillor Wilson.
Yes, Chair, and could I comment just briefly? There has been somewhere in the region of 100, I'm sure I'm not far out, 100 billion spent on, or 100 million spent on the existing plans that that are been set up for the A5. That has been going on now for 15, 20 years, and there's no headway made. The landowners, property owners and all along that existing road are sitting with property that they can do nothing with, and I think it's a total disgrace. If they're not going to either do it, then forget about it. And I think that the Southern government, yes, they did promise money, although I think shrinking away from that, it may not be that much. But they're starting now apparently to redraw some of the areas, and that will be, I probably never will see it built, and it's a total disgrace. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Chair,
Are
I
you
wanted
prepared
to make a comment.
Sorry, hold on, just Councillor Dehan. Are you prepared to second the noting the correspondence, Councillor Wilson? You may not agree, but are you happy to second the noting? Okay, Councillor Wilson's gone off. Are you happy to second the noting of the correspondence, Councillor Wilson? Sorry, we've lost you there. Councillor Dehan.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, Chair, I wanted to welcome both these pieces of correspondence. I suppose Councillor Wilson, I sense the frustration that he feels, and indeed that frustration is shared by all of us. But we have to be mindful of the planning legislation and the Planning Appeals Commission interim report. And we have noted the Minister for Infrastructure's response to the recommendations contained in that report, and we expect that the public inquiry will resume next year. But I think what is good about this communication, number one, is that the Northern Ireland Executive and the Irish Government remain committed to this project. The Executive recognises it as a flagship project. We are all dismayed by the delays in this project. We must get the planning correct this time. My understanding is that vested lands have now been returned to the ownership of the farmers involved, and that the process will begin anew. But I would be confident that this project will progress. As a local government, we need to keep the pressure up. We want to see this project completed as quickly as possible. But broadly, I welcome these two items of correspondence, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dehan. And I suppose following on from our special council meeting with DFI Roads, those comments were made on the evening, and Mr. David McKinley explained it very well to us on the evening through his report.
Chair, could I just make one comment? One comment, just Chair. I'd like to
you're bouncing back in and out. I'll let you comment. Go ahead.
Yes, just as a landowner that is affected by this, I could just tell Councillor Dehan that it's still vested, and it's still causing serious problems. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barry McAduff.
Yeah, Chair, just want to agree with Councillor Dehan's comments.
Are you first of all, are you happy to second the noting?
Yes, yes, indeed.
Yeah, happy to second. Okay, thank you.
I just
Go ahead.
agree with Councillor Dehan in welcoming the stated commitments of the two administrations, and reminder that it is a programme for government priority. I think in light of Councillor Wilson's comments, we need to, as a council, reinforce and restate our council's total commitment to the delivery of the A5 project. And why does it need to be delivered? Road safety demands that it be delivered. Reduction of travel times, connectivity to Dublin and Belfast. And you yourself, Chair, have often emphasised the eastern links as well as the southern links. And economic opportunities. I mean, investment awaits, investment demands the delivery of the A5. So maybe I would just ask the Chief Executive if there's a scheduled meeting of the Inter-Council A5 pressure group, of which we are a member. Our council is a constituent member. Is there a scheduled meeting in the autumn of the A5 pressure group, the lobby group? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McAduff. Chief Executive.
Yeah, Chair, there's not a scheduled meeting because the group itself had requested that we wouldn't be convening until there was a substantive update. So the information before members is very much the information that was shared with the group by the Minister and by DFI officials. They indicated they would then hope to reconvene or to re-engage with the group. They hoped before the end of this year, and the group agreed that they would await the direction of the department in that regard.
Okay, Councillor McAduff.
Yeah, thank you. Just need to keep a monitoring eye on every aspect of this and not to give up on the A5. It's crucial. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McAduff. Thank you, Chief Executive. Okay, moving on to item 10.5, and it's to consider correspondence from DAERA. Chief Executive.
Yes, Chair, thank you. Chair, the Council will be aware that we had made representations following the Policy and Resources meeting about a request to extend the deadline for the Rural Policy Framework consultation. We did note at that time we weren't particularly optimistic, and the Minister has confirmed that he is not extending the consultation deadline, which will remain as the 6th of September. The Council had made provision, Chair, for such an event, and that you would have a special meeting of the Rural Affairs Subcommittee to deal specifically with this matter. And having consulted with the Chair of the Subcommittee, it is proposed that that special meeting takes place on the 7 p.m. Thursday, the 2nd of September. Chair. So we will be notifying members in due course of that. I would also advise, Chair, that those of you who've had a chance to have a look at the consultation document will notice it's largely in template form. It's quite restrictive, but the department has advised us we may put in a maximum of up to 5 A4 pages to accompany the submission. So again, that's the basis on which we'll work, and we'll report accordingly to the subcommittee, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that, Chief Executive. Obviously, there's a bit of work being done between our Chief Executive, our officers, and the Chair of the Rural Affairs Subcommittee, and we welcome that very much. Can we have a proposer and seconder to note the correspondence from DAERA?
I can propose that.
You propose the noting, and you're agreeing with what the Chief Executive has said there, Councillor Green. Have a seconder for the noting, and then we'll take further comments. Councillor Emmett McAleer.
Yeah, Chair, I'll second the noting if need be.
Yeah,
but I'd
go
just
ahead.
like to comment on it, and it's interesting, and in relation to something that's about consultation, that the second last paragraph on the first page, I can assure you that my officials took account of the public holiday period and determining the consultation period, and have extended the consultation period to 6th of September 2021, almost 9 weeks. So an extension has brought it to almost 9 weeks. That's absolutely disgusting, and it shows this minister, I don't know what planet he's living on, but it's not anywhere near Fermanagh and Omagh, I'll tell you that much, because the fact that he thinks people can work through, as the Chief Executive rightly says, such a restrictive and such a confined questionnaire and policy framework on such a hugely important piece of work in relation to this area and other rural areas like it, is again quite simply breathtaking. And you know, there's no level of reality in the minds of some of these ministers where they get off on saying that they've extended a consultation to almost 9 weeks. You know, what was it? We thought the baseline, was it not 8 weeks? You know, it's not good enough, and I'm very disappointed. And again, it's not the first time that this particular minister has sent a very dismissive and a very disappointing response to the council. I feel like we should write back to him and say, you know, what was the original plan for this? What if it's been extended to almost 9 weeks? What was the original time frame in mind? But you know, I feel it's getting petty at this stage. The lack of the contempt really that's been shown for rural people in this district and rural people right across
Okay, bring your
the
comments
north
to a close,
is
Councillor.
quite disgusting, Chair. And I'm fuming with this response, as I have been with previous responses from this minister.
No problem. Thank you for that. Councillor Donald Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah. I just think that this is a disgraceful response, and it is quite offensive to the council. The reality is that for many years, Stormont prided itself in the fact it had 12-week consultations, and now we're being told that they've been specially extended to 9 weeks. And of course, the point has been made, of course, that the consultations coincide with the summer holidays, and the net effect of this is really that it cuts across the democratic functioning of our council. We don't have an opportunity to have oversight of our response before it needs to go in. And this is precisely the intent, as far as I can see. Stormont is proceeding really to undermine the basic democratic protections that were negotiated years ago, and at a rate of knots. And unfortunately, this seems to be the direction in which we're heading. And I just hope the people are awake to what's happening around us. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. And obviously, the meeting of the Rural Affairs Committee of Fermanagh and Omagh is on Thursday, the 2nd of September 2021 at 7 p.m. So further details will be sent out on that. So thank you. Now, bear in mind, it is now 8:53 p.m. and we have a lot of business still to do, as well as motions. So please be brief to your comments. Moving on to item 10.6, and that's to consider correspondence the 19th of July from the Department for Work and Pensions regarding universal credit and legacy benefits. Chief Executive.
Yes, Chair, this letter is in response to the Council's correspondence of early June regarding the need to make the temporary uplift of £20 per week to make that permanent. And this is the Minister for Welfare Delivery's response and sets out the various spending that has taken place.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Can we have a proposal seconder for noting before we take any other comments?
Proposed.
Proposed by Councillor Riley to note. Seconded by Councillor Donald O'Coffey. All agreed. Now taking comments is Councillor Donald O'Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is a disgraceful response from the Westminster authorities. This is undoubtedly a wider attack on working class people who are reliant on social welfare provision. The fact that a £20 addition to absolutely horrendously low rates of social welfare provision is not deemed, sustainable into the long term. At the very time when billions and trillions are being pumped into the commanding heights of the banking and finance sectors, when the billionaire class are having their wealth increase 50% in the middle of a lockdown, when everyone else's conditions of life are being eroded, when workers are returning back to workplaces to find themselves under attack from all sides. And the idea really is to punish workers who will not work on a 0-hour contract, to punish workers who don't want to work for a part-time or a hard, poor conditions, low health and safety. This is about punishing workers to force them to take up work that they don't really want to that they would rather not take up, perhaps to develop themselves, to learn other skills, and then go back into the labour market. So this is the disgraceful attack. That's just what it is. Now, I just wanted to put it up really to Stormont, though. We've got a number of welfare provisions that need to be, the protections that was negotiated by Stormont. So I'd like to propose that we write to, I think it's the Minister for Finance, perhaps OFM, DFM as well, to ask that they would extend a commitment for the £20 top-up to be continued beyond the lockdown on all these credits. It should be integrated as a very minimum. I think it's essential. If Westminster won't look after the poor people of our country, I hope Stormont will do so. So I'd like to propose that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Coffey. Next up, we have Councillor Thomas O'Reilly.
Thanks, Chair. Absolutely, I would agree here that we are looking at still being not out of COVID, and this was a benefit enhancement that was a temporary nature to support households. And we are still, whether we are coming out of COVID or not, those same households are still finding it very, very difficult to survive. And this £20 increase, even though it is very modest, has been a very welcome addition to struggling households. So my understanding, Chair, is that today Minister Hargey had got agreement within the Assembly to go back to London to look to have this permanently put in place. And certainly I think that this, and would propose that this council would write to Minister Hargey with our support for that, and so that she is able to, and hopefully other councils would support this position and be able then to go back to London to sort of say this, along with other measures that are needed to bring universal credit into some realistic form for people that are struggling, would be something then that she could have the support of all of the 11 councils.
Okay, thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Before we move on any further, we've had a proposal from Councillor O'Coffey that we write to the Department of Finance and Personnel Minister and also to the Executive Office. Have we got a seconder for that proposal?
I'm happy to second that one, Chair. Councillor McAleer.
Second by Councillor McAleer. Are we all agreed with that one? Okay, I see no dissension. Now we have a proposal from Councillor Thomas O'Reilly that we write to Minister Hargey, basically amending her DFC. Seconder, have we got a seconder for that proposal?
I can second that, Chair. Councillor Green.
Green, okay. Are we all agreed on that one?
Chair, I was actually going to add something into the letter if we can, before it's agreed, if you give me the chance.
Yeah, I'm going to bring you in now, Councillor Green. Call-in user 3, can we confirm your identity? Call-in user 3. Call-in user 3. I'm getting up in chat that this may be Councillor Sean Clark and Councillor as call-in user 3. Is that correct? Councillor Clark?
That person's disappeared off.
Just dropped off the line there too. Thank you for that.
Chair,
Okay.
sorry, Councillor McCaffrey here. Just quickly, I'm not sure, but I know that perhaps that might have been IT. I know from a previous meeting, I think Colin User Tree was Council's own IT team, but I could be mistaken on that.
It's dropped off now, anyway, Vice Chair. So, Councillor Green, come in with your comments now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. No, it was. I agree fully with what Thomas had said there. There is an anomaly in this whole thing where people on the old DLA who are still on it and some of the other older benefits didn't get the £20 increase and have been left with the original thing, which has left them in very hardship over the COVID period and that. So if Councillor O'Reilly was happy enough maybe to add in something in relation to that, where we would actually look for that they would be included in that £20 and possibly, not possibly, and backdated, because it was absolutely disgraceful, the fact that they weren't included in the scheme. So I would, if Councillor Riley's happy enough to add something along them lines into it, I'm more than happy to second his proposal.
Okay, see it in the chat. If you're happy to second that, Councillor Riley, are you happy to include Councillor Green's comments?
Very much so, Chair. Let's treat everybody equally.
Yep, well, I see on the chat the Councillor McAleer wants full clarification as to what your proposal is, Councillor Riley.
That we would write in support of the Minister's position that she got unanimous support to go back to London and to get this £20 as a permanent fixture and not as a temporary measure.
Thank you. Councillor Josephine Dehan.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I think this letter from Will Quince, MP, Minister for Welfare Delivery, is very disappointing because it really does not acknowledge the hardship that families are facing owing to the COVID pandemic and the impact that that has had on the economy and on jobs, and the fact that we are going to be facing a likely avalanche of unemployment when the furlough scheme is ended. The Department for Work and Pension is sticking to its line that welfare reform is all about getting people back to work. And of course, that is all well and good, and we support getting people back to work, but where are the jobs for the people? And in the meantime, families need that extra support. So I certainly do support the proposals that have been made here this evening. The support for universal credit claimants, which Minister Quince outlines in his letter, are certainly welcome, and in particular the 2 billion to be spent on Kickstart, which will facilitate 6-month work placements for 16 to 24-year-olds at risk of unemployment. But the main issue that we want to address is the financial hardship faced and continuing to be faced by many families within our community. So I support the proposals on the table, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Deehan. Okay, we had the first proposal. It was proposed and seconded by Councillor Donald Coffey, seconded by Councillor McAleer, and it was agreed. There was no dissension. The second proposal was by Councillor Thomas O'Reilly, and it was already clarification was given there, and added to by Councillor Seamus Green, who seconded it. Are we all agreed? Okay, councillors, I'm seeing no dissension, so that's agreed. Thank you for that. On now to item 10.7, and it's from the Electoral Officer for Northern Ireland regarding static canvassers.
Yes.
And I'll bring a Chief Executive in on this.
Thank you, Chair. I would also just refer members to item 4 in the other correspondence folder as well. So 2 aspects to this, Chair. Firstly, the Electoral Office has confirmed that they are content for the Council to take decisions in relation to the kiosks, so long as we would notify the Electoral Office of that effect, and they would arrange for movement and obviously the publication of the information. The second element then of the letter, Chair, was to request a further meeting with the Electoral Office regarding the closure of the OMA office. So the Chief Electoral Officer has advised that while she has previously met with members on that subject, doesn't think that would be the best use of time, but is keen to engage with councillors regarding the canvass response. And on that matter, Chair, I would advise that today we have received quite detailed correspondence from the Electoral Office regarding an update on the 2021 canvass, and appended to the letter is the breakdown by wards together with the response rate to date in terms of the static canvass arrangements, which members may wish to reference. So I suppose 2 matters then, Chair. Firstly, we can be flexible regarding the location of the kiosks, and secondly, if members wish to meet with the Electoral Officer on the static canvass and the feedback from that, she is happy to do so, but not on the closure of the OMA office.
Thank you, Chief Executive. First of all, before we go into any debate, can we have our proposer and seconder to note the correspondence from Virginia McVeigh? Councillor Thornton, are you prepared to propose the note?
I'm happy to note, but I also want to make comment, Chair.
Yeah. Can we have a seconder for noting, first of all?
Second, Chair.
Seconded by Councillor O'Reilly, and all agreed. Okay, Councillor Thornton.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah. When they talk about kiosks and canvassing and so on and so forth, we really need to understand what they're talking about here. And I would propose that we do arrange a meeting once more clear details are known of what they're proposing in our contact centres and in our villages. Because kiosks, I mean, kiosks to me, you know, what's the COVID restrictions in kiosks? What are they going to bring computers for people to use the computers? Is it handwritten? We need to know an awful lot more detail, and I think it would be useful to get a meeting with the Electoral Officer about that, as well as other issues which tend to have been ignored with regard to certain practices, doctors and so on, charging for postal votes. There are a lot of many unanswered questions that we posed before to the Chief Electoral Officer, and with obviously an election next May, if not earlier, basically we need answers, and I would hope that it's not just she's not seeing us only on the OMA one, but there's a lot of other questions we've asked in the past that we still have no answers to. So as soon as we know what's going on, but also she should be answering these other questions which haven't been answered to date.
Okay, Councillor Thornton, I'll bring the Chief Executive in maybe for further clarification. Thank you.
Chair, just briefly, I can provide some clarification in relation to the the first part of Councillor Thornton's query. So the kiosks are, they're I suppose about a couple of metres high. There will be in the Omagh and Enniskillen Connect centres, and they do require the submission by hard copy of a form that is then returned. Their electoral office property, they're badged accordingly. They will operate through our own COVID restrictions. So we have our offices, obviously, in terms of the Connect centres are open, but social distancing would apply, sanitising would apply. In addition to that, Chair, then the electoral office, as previously reported to the council, has a number of their own officials in attendance at Omagh Leisure Complex, Fermanagh Lakeland Forum and the Hospital Road Community Centre. They have iPads and they are updating electronically for people who wish to avail of the static canvas in that way. So the kiosks are essentially self-service, and the manned facilities, if you like, are at those 3 locations which have been identified by the electoral office. The other matters, certainly, that Councillor Thornton queries, we can of course include on that wider agenda, Chair.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Councillor O'Coffey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It has to be said, this is another attempt, I believe, to disenfranchise voters from both a poorer socioeconomic background and also rural voters. This whole mechanism of scrapping the existing electoral provisions and starting anew, it's absolutely unnecessary, I think, really. The system isn't perfect, no system is, but it seemed to be working well enough, and I'm sure if there are errors, there are enough politicians to go out and correct it themselves. The provision of kiosks unstaffed, or even a number of officials in a number of isolated areas rather than across the constituency, I genuinely don't think that these are anywhere near enough. I would like to propose that we write back and ask if their approach has been A, rural proofed, and B, whether there is any consideration given to the differential impact that this will have on lower socioeconomic communities, in particular neighbourhood renewal areas. I think that I'd love to see those statistics that were referenced by the Chief Executive. Perhaps maybe she could clarify where they can be obtained. I haven't seen them, I don't think, as yet. We need to do an analysis to see where are the voters going on. No doubt people who have maybe more experience working with computer, higher educational attainment, so on, better quality of housing, internet connections, and so on, they're going to have a much higher proportion of uptake, whereas those who are struggling to get by, heating or eating, are yet again going to be excluded. And that's the whole point of this, I think. So I just think it's a disgrace. Thank you, Chair.
Chief Executive, clarification.
Yes, Chair, just they're appended to the letter from the Chief Electoral Officer. The letter in the other correspondence folder, it's appended as a spreadsheet.
Councillor Coffey? Are you picking that up? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I know Councillor Curry wants to come on here, but we have a proposal by Councillor Hurd Thornton that we have a meeting with the Chief Electoral Officer, Virginia McVeigh, Electoral Officer Northern Ireland. I'll be a seconder for that proposal.
I will second that, Chair Gormogan.
Seconded by Councillor Siobhan Curry, and we are all agreed with that. Now, a lot of points have been made there already. I'm assuming that all of this can be put to the Chief Electoral Officer when we do meet her. Is everyone happy with that? And I'm going to bring you in now, Councillor Curry.
Yes, and I take your comments there on board, Chair, and I hope that we do have the opportunity to have some of those questions answered that haven't been answered. I'm glad to see that there has been some contact with the council, because there's very little with elected reps when we're trying to contact the Chief Electoral Officer. But just one query for the Chief Executive, just while we're on the subject. Alison has mentioned there that currently there are manned stations at the Omagh Leisure Centre and the Fermanagh Lakeland Forum. Now I know at the Lakeland Forum it is every Thursday from 2 o'clock in the afternoon till 8 p.m. in the evening. There were some issues there, and I'm just wondering if the electoral office have since provided any signage to direct people entering the forum to where they might avail of those services. So those services are for people who might be having difficulty registering using the online registration process. It doesn't include photographs for photo ID, which I think is a big miss. But hopefully we can address that when we meet the chief electoral officer. But just if we could have an update on that. If they haven't provided signage as yet, can we just get an urgent request for them to do so, please? Cormac.
Yeah, I think, Councillor Corey, I think all those issues can be included when we put those things to the Chief Electoral Officer. However, I will bring the Chief Executive in for clarification on the issues you have raised.
Yes, Chair, just to advise firstly, and Councillor Curry, I know, had made representations on this previously, the location in the Lakeland Forum has changed. So we've actually worked with the electoral office, and they are now located almost immediately adjacent to reception. So there is some signage, but there's a much more visible presence of the electoral office staff, and that seems to have resolved matters. To the best of my knowledge, they haven't done extensive signage, but I think that the matter has been largely resolved now because of the new location for the staff in question.
Thank you, Chief Executive, and I see Councillor Corey has signalled her happiness with that. So it has been proposed and seconded that we do have a meeting with the Chief Electoral Officer for Northern Ireland, Virginia McVeigh. I suppose date, time, and possibly a venue to be confirmed. Chief Executive, would that be correct?
Oh, yes, certainly, Chair. We'll progress that. It would obviously be after the recess, but I know I did speak to the Chief Electoral Officer, and I know she is certainly keen to engage again with members, and we'll get that facilitated as soon as we can.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Are we all agreed? Thank you. No dissension. Thank you for that. Councillor Coffey, you did make a proposal, or because of what has been said, are you prepared to include that on the letter we will send to the Chief Executive or the Chief Electoral Officer? Are you prepared to allow that to be part of the letter as we request our meeting? Councillor Coffey?
Sorry, I said yes. Sorry. Thank you, Chair. I'm happy.
Didn't hear you. Okay, that can be all included. That's fine. So we don't need a seconder there. That's okay. Thank you very much. Okay, it is now 9:16. I have to push on again. And we're on now to 10.8. And it's to consider correspondence dated the 21st of July 2021 from the Northern Ireland Office regarding legacy reforms.
Yes,
Chief
Chair.
Executive.
There were really two aspects to our original letters. Well, there have been several, obviously, on this subject. Firstly, the Council had sought a formal commitment and confirmation regarding the British Government's commitment to implementing all aspects of the Stormont House Agreement. The concerns the members had expressed on a north-south basis for dialogue and the ongoing concerns regarding legacy issues, and urging the Secretary of State to meet with the Council and specifically that elected members may be able to engage with the Secretary of State on these matters. So the response doesn't deal with the meeting at all, Chair, gives some general information more generally and is obviously not signed by the Secretary of State.
Okay, thanks for that, Chief Executive. First of all, can we have a proposer and seconder to note the correspondence from the Northern Ireland Office?
I'm quite happy to note, Chair.
Proposed by Councillor Thornton to note. Have a second to note.
Councillor Irvine, Chair.
Councillor Irvine, second to note, and I take it we're all agreed with the noting. Okay, and now we'll go on to comments. Please keep them succinct if you can. I'll go on to the Vice Chair of the Council, Councillor Chris McCaffrey.
Gormagat Kylie, and I just want to preface my comments just saying that as someone who was born in 1995, I deeply cherish the peace that we now enjoy for this generation, but I'm also deeply aware of the hurt that was caused on all sides in the most recent conflict. And as a student of history and someone that teaches history, that is something that is on my mind. However, this response on behalf of the Secretary of State is reprehensible, and it is deeply insulting to all the victims and families, and it has caused them much hurt. It's actually humiliating. It's been wrapped up in a nice suit of words, but we need to make it clear. Myself and my party, we completely object to any de facto amnesty. It's stated in the response that this British government remain committed to the principles and spirit that were enshrined in the Stormont House Agreement and all other agreements regarding legacy issues. So we need to be absolutely clear. These legacy agreements were not signed up to in spirit. Though we all know the record of the British government when it comes to keeping its word, at the very heart of this issue are the victims and their families, and they rightfully expect and demand that all parties live up to their commitments within these agreements, which were signed up to and again renewed and reinforced in New Decade, New Approach. The British government must listen to the voices of victims and their families who strongly object to its diluted command paper and de facto amnesty. I'm sure we all saw the powerful demonstration by Relatives for Justice today, and they certainly feel like justice is yet again being buried. How can the British government seriously say that they remain committed to the Stormont House Agreement when they reference their government consultation, which I would describe as a complete whitewash? It's also stated that any approach to dealing with the legacy of the past, which focuses on criminal investigation, will be extremely unlikely to deliver the outcomes people hope for. Well, in reality, we know what this actually means is that these criminal investigations will be extremely unlikely to deliver the outcomes which the British government would hope for. Instead, we see a clear attempt to put British state forces beyond the law and to further deny access to truth. These proposals have been rejected by victims and by campaign groups, and they've also been rejected by the Assembly. I think the British government is seriously lacking in its resolve to commit to its the agreements that it signed up to. And these proposals, if implemented, will breach international law and also commitments that the British government made in the past agreements. It's very important we set this out as a council. We must make it clear that our legacy agreements still stand and we expect them to be delivered upon. Stormont House Agreement must be implemented fully as agreed and signed up to by the British government. And I just want to end my comments on that, but we are all aware in our own DEAs and right across the Fermanagh district of cases indeed where victims were suffered and where people lost their lives as a result of the conflict. And the British government really need to step up. They have not shown that they have the integrity or the dignity to deal with these matters. So I'll just leave it there.
Thank you, Councillor McCaffrey. Next up is Councillor Howard Thornton.
Thank you, Chair. Referring to the letter, the legacy proposals of the Stormont House Agreement were not supported by my party, the Ulster Unionist Party. They never have been and never will be. The current letter outlines the Secretary of State's recent announcement reinforcing the injustice which has already been dealt to victims and their families. No amnesty should be provided to anyone. The Ulster Unionist Party will continue to support justice, and if there is new evidence, then it should be pursued in all cases, and we're very much against what's being proposed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thornton. Next up, Councillor Deborah Erskine.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, dealing with the past in Northern Ireland is very difficult, and I think we all recognise that. When matters like this come up within our council chamber, even it can cause division, and ultimately our words can also cause hurt to innocent victims also. And whilst it is a sensitive issue, it's very clear that the approach should be victim-centred and victim-led, and justice must still remain open to many families across Northern Ireland who bear the loss of a loved one. And in particular, we think very recently in terms of what has the ruling in terms of the Omagh bomb and many other different things that happened in the Troubles. The amnesty proposal put forward by the government or opposed by the DUP For many in Northern Ireland, reconciliation and the channels of justice should go hand in hand. It is to apply and uphold the rule of law fairly and equally, and that is something I fundamentally believe in. And while some may choose to attack security forces, the vast majority did their job with the utmost distinction, and they do not seek or need an amnesty. Including them within these proposals only serves to equate them as terrorists whose only thought was murder and mayhem. To
Sorry,
the
Councillor.
Secretary of State, sorry, could you hear me okay?
No, you were just cut out there for about 2 seconds. Sorry about that.
I just wanted to say that, equating them with terrorists, whose only thought was murder and mayhem is unthinkable, and we certainly should make the case to the Secretary of State that we would be against such proposals that have come forward from the government. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Erskine. Councillor Adam Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. And as has been acknowledged by others, the past of this place is very difficult to deal with, but victims and survivors should be at the heart of how we move forward. And in this command paper, in this case, this intervention by the British government and this amnesty is nothing but a brutal assault on victims and survivors to shut down justice and close off avenues for truth and reconciliation by providing an amnesty to those involved in the most serious troubles related crimes, including murder, is absolutely abhorrent. The proposals here in that paper are hostile to the interests of victims and survivors, and as has been said, they are opposed by all the executive parties, and the British government should withdraw them. The SDLP is committed to using every means at our disposal to oppose an amnesty for those who have committed horrific crimes and destroyed the lives of thousands of people and family, and the government needs to change their approach. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gannon. Councillor Josephine Dehan.
Thank you, Chair. These proposals by the British government, in my view, are totally unacceptable, and I think all right-thinking people should call on the British government to withdraw these proposals. Legacy issues are not easy to solve, but there can be no reconciliation without trust, without truth and justice. And the general public must have trust in their political leaders to deliver truth and justice for them. I think that the suffering that has been endured by the families and victims is something that has to be recognised, and there can be no amnesty. Everyone must be responsible for their actions, and they must be accountable under the law. So I would support the call for the British government to withdraw these proposals, which are wholly unacceptable and fly totally in the face of justice.
Thank you, Councillor Dehan. I think it's Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Yes, just on that there, I think that this letter is ridiculous and is causing deep hurt and anger. Myself and our Deputy First Minister, Michelle O'Neill, and our MP and our MLA, Nicola Brogan, we met with the members of the Omagh Bomb families yesterday. And do you know what? It's 23 years now in a couple of weeks' time, and that is still very, very an open wound with those families and with many other families in the district. And just they were saying yesterday that they feel really assaulted, and with years having no answers, no proper inquests, as many families don't have. There is a history of collusion and protection of those in higher authorities. And dealing with our past is really a must, and families must really have their answers, and needs to be open and transparent. And in many cases, it seems that for others, the nearer that we get to answers, these answers is not what other forces want to be discovered. Therefore, everything seems to be shut down for everybody else. Families have been extremely hurt and angered, not by what the British government is hoping to introduce, but by saying that we should draw a line under everything and help us move forward. they have no realisation of what people have dealt with in this island of Ireland. It's been horrific in the past, and members of my own family have also wanted answers. They're getting very near getting their answers, but they're going to get it shut down. And I'm not supportive of this letter, and I want to be supportive of everybody else's comments tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. Next up is Councillor Eamon Keenan.
Thank you, Chair. I'm probably going to raise a lot of points that people's already raised. It looks like there's unanimous support that this letter is unacceptable and that there should be no amnesty for anybody. And there's been a lot of talk about it, but I'd like to formally raise a proposal that we write to the Northern Ireland Office and the Secretary of State and the British government that Monaghan District Council refutes it, and will not stand for an amnesty. And that we call for full legacy issues to be disclosed and investigated into. It is no accident that the closer we get to finding out more about collusion and what has happened in this country, that is shut down. I'd like to formally propose that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keenan. First of all, have we got a seconder for Councillor Keenan's proposal?
Second that, Councillor Fitzgerald.
Okay. Two other councillors wish to come on and allow them on here. Councillor Smith, Chris Smith.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Very quickly. Look, it's great to see that there's unanimous support.
Sorry,
it's only a shame that the
Councillor Smith, you're very broken up. You're very broken up. Can you maybe change position or something? It's you're very broken up with your comments.
What about now, Chair?
No, you're still broken up. Sorry.
What about now, Chair?
No. Try again.
Chair, what about any good? No.
Yeah.
What about now? This is about as close as I can get. Yeah, look, it's great to see there's unanimous support. I just wish the same unanimous support was given out when letters of comfort and Welcomes of Mercy were handed out a few years ago. Thanks, Chair.
No problem. Thank you, Councillor Smith. And Councillor Bert Wilson. Councillor Bert Wilson.
Chair, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think anybody is very happy with this amnesty and this talk about collusion and all the rest. I unfortunately had been about for the 56, 62 troubles, as well as the ones that commenced in the late 1970s. And unfortunately, I had some of my own family wounded, and lucky enough survived. I had two young friends around 18, 19 who joined part-time on the security forces to get money to try and purchase a car. Both of them were murdered, one outside Ventnor, one outside Dromore. The young guy at Ventnor, his sister took it so bad that 6 months later she committed suicide. And, you know, when we look at that and look at the 18 young soldiers that were murdered outside Newry or in that direction somewhere, and Lord Mountbatten, and the young lad blown to pieces down in the south of Ireland, there's a lot of hurt out there. There's a lot of answers that seem to be very one-sided, and I believe that it needs to be revisited again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson and Councillor Smith. Next up, we have Councillor Steve McCann.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, I suppose there's one thing that's happened since these proposals were brought forward by Brian Lewis, is that he has united, I suppose, all politicians across every spectrum, you know, against them. And I think what is clear here is that the huge, immense hurt that's still out there for all victims. And I suppose just during the week, the family of Patsy Kelly issued a statement on the 24th of July, which was Patsy's 47th anniversary. And with your permission, Chair, I might just read that. It'll take a few seconds, but it's very, very haunting, and it shows a hurt that they're experiencing 47 years on from Patsy's murder. And it goes, another year has passed. Another 24th of July anniversary is upon us. Another year without Patsy, a much loved husband and father. Another year without justice of not knowing the truth. Some in authority believe that those British soldiers in the UDR who abducted and murdered Councillor Patsy Kelly should receive an amnesty, that our family and many, many others should draw a line and move on. Move on and stop seeking answers. Move on and behave as if what happened to Patsy doesn't matter. Move on and forget how a civil rights activist and a community leader was abducted at a security force checkpoint on his drive home to his wife and young children. Move on and do not ask who held up the red stoplight on the isolated Bodoni Road just outside Thrillich. Don't ask who took him out of his car and onto the roadside. Move on and don't ask who inflicted the burns to Patsy's forearm. Don't ask who inflicted the wounds and lacerations on his scalp. Don't ask who inflicted the strangulation that shattered his voice box. Don't ask who fired the multiple shots into Patsy's body that killed him. Don't ask who transported his body to Loch Aze, rowed out in a boat, and sent his remains to the depths. Don't ask who burned out Patsy's car at Brookborough. Don't ask who gave the orders to carry out his murder and then planned it. Don't ask who conspired at the highest levels of police and military to ensure that Patsy's killers remain free via their very own de facto amnesty. Don't ask who his killers are and whether or not they've already left this world and are now perhaps facing a higher form of justice. Don't ask who is still conspiring to cover up this crime. Don't ask who pulled the strings in the British establishment in 1974, and don't ask who is still pulling the strings. Don't ask. Move on is the demand of British authorities. But the Kelly family finish off their statement by saying, "We won't stop asking, pushing and fighting for the truth and justice for Patsy. We won't stop." So that's a very haunting, I think a very sobering statement from them on Patsy's 47th anniversary. And I know that other families out there are suffering the same hurt as well. So I think what Brandon Lewis should sit down and do is talk to the family of Patsy Kelly and talk to other families, and maybe then he might have a second thought. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. There's no doubt about it. It's a divisive subject, but as someone has said, it has united politicians in different ways right across Northern Ireland and beyond against any amnesty for anyone. So there has been a proposal made. There has been a proposal made by Councillor Eamon Keenan and a seconded by Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald. Now I'm going to ask for a vote on the way that has been put by Councillor Keenan and seconded by Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald. I'm going to ask for a vote, and I would probably sense it there may be division with regard to how that proposal was framed. Can I have a vote, a show of hands for the vote for?
Can I come in there, Chair, with an amendment, please?
Sorry, Councillor McClahey. No, can't accept you. Sorry, I'm getting direction. Can't we have to go to that vote now? So
can I get a recorded vote, please, Errol? Or a recorded vote? Thank you.
Okay.
Chair, can we have clarity on what the proposal is?
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Baird. I'll ask exactly what Councillor Keenan is proposing for clarification, and seconded by Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald. Councillor Keenan has also asked for a recorded vote. Which will be granted? Councillor Keenan.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, well, I propose that this council write to the Northern Ireland Office and the British government to say that we rebuke the amnesty. We do not agree with it, and we are calling for a total reversal on the decision. And we are clear that it is no accident that the closer we get to unraveling collusion and other elements within our history, that the process of the legacy issues has been stopped.
Okay, is that clarification for you, Councillor Baird? Councillor Baird. Okay.
Sorry, it's not clear at all. Is it a straight? I'm trying to pick out of it there. There's talk on the one hand about refuting the proposal on collusion. It's what went on
the amnesty.
there.
The amnesty.
But Don't be shouting across there now. Let Councillor Baird have a say.
Oh, it's that bit about collusion or alleged collusion that I'm talking about. I would have thought if there was a vote straight, as you said yourself, Chair, right across the chamber, there seems to be a rejection, a rejection of the Secretary of State's proposals. And where a simple motion, a proposal to simply reject them, it's the other ancillary stuff that's come in on it that I'm not sure. I'm unclear of.
Well, that's why I exactly sensed that there would be division on this matter because of the way the proposal was framed by Councillor Keenan. Councillor Gardy, very quickly, I'm going to let you in on this.
Very quickly, Chair, thanks for letting me in. I may be mistaken, but I think somebody wanted to amend that, and maybe you didn't allow. I can't understand why not, because this item, Chair.
Some have been advised not to.
Oh, okay, well, you're the chair and you can take your own risk. This item has united everybody with the disgust of this, and I think there's people who will share different views on it, but definitely hold the same outcome. So I think if that injection from perhaps, I think it was Councillor McCloughery, was included, it would cross everybody and it would be a unanimous vote. That's my opinion, Chair, but I respect your decision on it.
I'll take further clarification on the matter. Please hold on. Please hold on. Okay, just for clarification from the Chief Executive, I had already called for the vote to take place when Councillor McCloughery was going to make his amendment. So therefore, that cannot take place at this moment in time. I'd ask now Councillor Keenan to reflect on his proposal, and maybe he'll want to comment.
Well, I understand that some councillors may not support it with my inclusion of the word collusion and all that entailed in our history, but I feel that we can't write out the fact. So the collusion is a fact. It's not an insinuation. It's a fact of our history. We can't write it out of our history. And the fact now that we're getting to the stage where it's starting to unravel, I am not surprised, and many others are not surprised that this amnesty is now being called. And I'm sorry, but I'm not willing to take it out of it.
Okay, well, I sense division in the chamber now on that one.
We cannot rewrite our history.
I'm going to very quickly let Councillor Erskine, followed by Councillor Warrington, make very, very succinct comments on this.
Chair, is it possible that I raise a separate proposal, just on the back of that?
Not, we have to take the vote and on this one at the minute, because I'd already called for the vote when Councillor McCloughery was going to make his proposal. I'd already called for the vote, so that vote has to take place.
Okay.
And I sense from Councillor Keenan that he is not going to change his proposal in any way, and I sense division in the chamber, so I don't think that's going to change, and we're not going to get consensus on this one. However, we will go to the vote after Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. Well, just Councillor Keenan seems to be very focused on the word collusion. Let's be realistic. There was collusion from all sides, and we know that there was certainly a lot of collusion with the Garda Síochána to the IRA in their day, which led to murders of lots of security forces, and specifically I'm thinking of the two senior RUC officers that were murdered coming back from a high-profile security meeting many years ago, one of whom I knew the family very well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Warrington. And I'm going to let you in very quickly, Councillor McCloughery. And it's not a separate proposal. We have to go to the vote.
No, it was just that Councillor Keenan had reflected and said that all sides, government-wise, would come clean, not just the one specific side that he seems to be aiming it towards.
Okay, thanks for the comments. We will now move to the vote. Please take your hand down, Councillor McCloughery, at this time. Thank you. Now, you've heard the proposal by Councillor Eamon Keenan, seconded by Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald. Please show your hands for the proposal.
Chair, was
Sorry,
it not recorded?
sorry, I do
Recorded
apologise.
vote.
We're going to recorded vote. Just take your hands down again. Move your hands. Thank you. Councillor Diane Armstrong.
Against.
Councillor Alex Baird. Councillor Baird.
Sorry about that, Chair. Unfortunately, against.
Councillor Paul Blake.
For, Chair.
Councillor Mark Buchanan.
Against, Chair.
Councillor Glenn Campbell. Apology. Councillor Sean Clark.
For.
You're on now. Good man. Councillor John Coyle.
For.
Councillor Siobhan Curry.
Evaver, for.
Councillor Josephine Dehan.
For, Chair.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly. Apology. Councillor Sean Donnelly. Absent. Councillor Stephen Donnelly, an apology. Councillor Keith Elliott. Absent. Councillor Deborah Erskine. Councillor Erskine.
Sorry, Chair, against.
Councillor Anthony Feely. Gone. Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald.
Avaver, for.
Councillor Adam Gannon.
For.
Councillor Mary Gardy.
For, Chair.
Councillor Seamus Green. Councillor Seamus Green.
For.
Councillor Robert Irvine.
Against.
Councillor Eamon Keenan.
For.
Councillor Catherine Kelly.
For, Chair.
Councillor Padre Jean Kelly.
For, Chair.
Councillor Tommy Maguire.
Lahey, for.
Councillor Emmett McAleer.
For.
Councillor Chris McCaffrey.
Lahey Caghley, for.
Councillor Stephen McCann.
For.
Councillor John McCloughy. Councillor McCloughy.
Sorry, Chair. Against.
Councillor Barry McElduff.
Evaver, for, Chair.
Councillor Garvin McPhillips. Absent. Believe. Apology. Councillor Donald O'Coffey.
For.
Councillor Thomas O'Reilly.
For.
Councillor Alan Rainey, MBE.
Against.
Councillor Paul Robinson is apology. Councillor Chris Smith.
Against, Chair.
Councillor Bernice Swift, apology. Councillor Errol Thompson, against. Councillor Hurd Thornton.
Against.
Councillor Victor Warrington.
Against.
And Councillor Bert Wilson. Councillor Bert Wilson.
Against.
Thank you. I'll tally them up. Okay, the breakdown of that vote is 19 for, 12 against. Therefore, the proposal by Councillor Keenan, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald, is carried by the majority. Thank you. Moving on, and I'm bearing in mind here the time is now 10:48. 10.9 is further correspondence from Department for Infrastructure regarding driving theory testing centre in Enniskillen. Chief Executive.
Yes, Chair, two aspects. Firstly, confirming that there are no proposals for the provision of a theory test centre in Enniskillen, and then some details regarding the new contract arrangements, the new tenderer for the service in Omagh, and details of the slots that are available, the anticipated future availability, and that there is appointment availability from the 7th of September.
Okay, Mr. McCaffrey.
Gormagat Kyerley, thank you, Chair. Well, obviously I'm not that pleased with the response, as I did make it clear in my proposal last month that I was asking for a service to be delivered to Fermanagh, as we are the only county out of the 6 counties that does not have any theory test centre. But I suppose I cautiously welcome the response. There are still a lot of outstanding issues which I'm going to speak on. Shortly after my proposal last month, which was supported by all the council members, new information was made available that DFI's contract with Pearson is coming to an end at the beginning of September. This service may be going in-house or maybe outsourced to another company, and I'd like to make a proposal to these questions and put back to the Infrastructure Minister, Nicola Mallon. What measures will DFI take to ensure that a service is provided to Fermanagh, which is the only county that does not have its own test centre, as I mentioned? I will welcome the additional appointments for Omagh, and I want to make it clear that I believe that service is essential for the people of Omagh and the wider people of Tyrone. However, there's also a need to establish a service here in Fermanagh. Travelling to Omagh is not practical for many people who have no adequate public transport in most parts of Fermanagh, and those that are trying to regain their licence or else gain their licence for the first time. But the most scandalous of all is the fact that an additional centre was opened in Ballymena as a way to deal with the backlog. This happened on Monday, the 14th of June. It's completely shambolic. One of the most northeasternmost points on the island. It is a 75-mile journey each way from Fermanagh to Ballymena, meaning an excess of 2 hours driving or much longer on public transport. How was this in any way designed to help the people of Fermanagh, and was it even rural proofed? Also, the fact that no appointments are available in Omagh until the 7th of September does not help the immediate crisis that parents, young people, and those that are seeking to regain their licences are going through currently. The reason I made the proposal was that I believe it is not unreasonable to request that a service is given to the people of Fermanagh. As I say, there's a lot of outstanding issues that the Minister needs to address, and I think that proposals should make it clear. I want to have those issues that I've raised addressed to the Minister, and also reinforce the proposal that we need a service here in Fermanagh that will allow people to do their theory tests in Fermanagh and not have to travel outside of the county. Gurnia Moggett, Kyerley.
Thank you, Councillor McCaffrey. Are you happy to propose to note the correspondence?
Well, yeah, well, I will note it on that condition that my other proposal, obviously, my seconder will go back to the Minister.
Can we have a seconder for noting?
Seconded.
Seconded by Councillor Donald Coffey. Okay, Councillor Coffey, you're coming in next for comments.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second the proposal by Councillor McCaffrey. I just would like to ask if he would include one additional provision in it. But I certainly have no issue with them opening an additional centre in Ballymena, but the idea that this is somehow something that would ameliorate the absence of this in our region or our part is ludicrous, frankly, and it's just almost insulting that that was included. But the point I would like to include, if possible, in the letter is that why is this being delivered externally? I don't see why the department is outsourcing this at all. So I'd like to see, as well as, and I think the best way to secure localized provision actually is the provision through the public sector. And I would certainly ask if it would be put in there that this should be brought back in-house and delivered locally to include a provision in the county of Fermanagh. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Coffey.
I'm happy to include that.
You're happy enough to include that? Okay. Councillor Thornton. Howard Thornton.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm fully in support with what Councillor McCaffrey has said. Various people have come to me and they've had to get their children away to Ballymena. It's totally unacceptable. And this home arrangement, you know, it's not until what, 6th September? I mean, it's an absolute disgrace. And where's the rural proof in here? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thornton. Okay, there are no other speakers on this issue. So you've heard the proposal by Councillor McCaffrey that we write back to the DFI Minister with regard to, particularly with regard to services in Fermanagh not being there, basically, and seconded by Councillor O'Coffey, supported by Councillor Howard Thornton. Are we all in support of? I'm not seeing any dissension, so I think that's agreed there, Councillor McCaffrey. Thank you. Next up is 10.10, sorry, Chief Executive.
No, that's right, Chair. It's the letter from the Department for the Economy regarding the proposed introduction of E10 petrol. The Council had made specific representations to that department following previous correspondence received, and they're really referring us back to the representations made to us by the Department for Infrastructure. So just suggesting it would be noted, Chair.
Okay, can we have a proposer to note? Councillor Paul Blake.
Yeah, propose no, Chair.
Seconded by
Chair.
Seconded by Councillor Josephine Dehan. All agreed that that's noted. Thank you. And next up is it's to the leaders of local authorities in the UK, 999 Day, Emergency Services Day. Chief Executive.
Yeah, Chair, again, we've been asked to bring this to the members' attention. Again, it relates specifically to Emergency Services Day on the 9th of September, but is encouraging the Council to purchase an official flag and fly it from buildings. So as members will be aware that we only have provision to fly Council flag from our facilities. However, it also suggests the Council may wish to hold a small event with the Chair and other dignitaries, or pass a motion on the subject. So there would be elements, Chair, that the Council could consider, but not the flag flying element.
Okay, thanks for the clarification on that, Chief Executive. And I suppose we do recognise our emergency services right across. And I'll bring in comments now from Councillor Bert Wilson. Councillor Wilson.
Chair, just to recommend that we note this and action it as well. I think I would agree with the Chief Executive that maybe some noting could be done, and maybe some the Council carry out some matter to highlight it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. Moving on quickly, keep your comments short, please. Councillor Chris Smith.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. I just want to second Councillor Wilson's proposal that it's noted and actioned accordingly. Thanks, Chair.
It has already been noted, but we'll see what we come from after that. Councillor Donald Coffey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I have to say that the idea of clapping or raising flags for emergency workers who are currently going to be paid a measly 3% after being offered 1% when inflation's running at 3.5% and they've suffered somewhere between 16 to 18% reductions in their incomes over the last 10 to 15 years is another slap in the face for NHS workers. NHS workers have worked selflessly, and other emergency workers too have worked selflessly throughout the period of the lockdown. And here we have another, an element that confuse and take the attention away. Bread and circuses. What we need to see is a commitment from the government to actually pay NHS workers and other frontline workers a decent pay increase this year. They're looking for 15%. At least two of the unions are. The other two are looking for 15 and 12%. And I'm supporting all those in action. And I hope to see NHS workers. It's a disgrace that they have to do this, but we're going to have to see if we can bring forward a platform of industrial action to win what should be given anyway in terms of a decent uplift to pay for NHS workers. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Deborah Erskine.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, can I think the purpose of this is just as a way of our council districts showing appreciation, and I think it would be quite fitting, you know, if yourself, Chair, was able to have an event and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to clarify that that will be actioned, Chair, as a result of that noting. I know our emergency services do an awful lot, not just during the COVID pandemic, but you know, I even remarked recently there with the fires and things in the Rosslea direction, you know, how our firefighters have tirelessly worked, you know, as well, not just in terms of COVID, but in terms of other awful events that happen in our district. So I just wanted to clarify, Chair, that there will be an event for that will be actioned. Chair, thank you.
Certainly, Councillor Erskine, I'm prepared to host such an event and action appropriately, but I obviously take my guidance from the Chief Executive on that matter. You want to come on, Chief Executive? Are you okay?
No, Chair, just to confirm, that is the proposal, I suppose, presently, that we note the corresponds, but that we proceed to arrange a suitable gathering in line with the relevant restrictions. So that would be something, Chair, that you could certainly convene and make the appropriate invitations to the emergency services in the district, and equally to have elected member representation at such an event.
Yep, I would be very supportive of that, Chief Executive, and I think our emergency services do deserve the recognition. They've worked so hard for many, many decades for us, and I think they do deserve recognition. I'm prepared to do that. So I think we're all in agreement with that one. Councillor Josephine Dehan.
Thank you, Chair. Well, notwithstanding comments made by Councillor O'Coffey in relation to the adequate remuneration of our emergency service workers, I do feel that it is appropriate to recognise the enormous sacrifices that members of our emergency services make every day, 24 hours daily, often risking their own lives for the safety and well-being of others. So whilst it is important that they should be adequately remunerated, it is important that as local representatives that we do acknowledge the excellent work that they do. And I'm very supportive of this proposal, Chair, and thank you for agreeing to take the appropriate action in relation to this. Thank you.
Not a problem, Councillor Dehan. Thank you. Councillor Emmett McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. I'm aware that we're running short in time, so we'll try and get through this as quickly as possible.
Sorry, can I hold you there? Just if we want to get through a lot of this business, we will need to extend the meeting. If you wish to proceed, I know we have quite a bit to do. We have quite a bit of correspondence, and we have still 3 motions and amendment. So at this time, I'm not sure if we want to get that done or not. But with your cooperation, I think we can get maybe through the motions in a certain way. Councillor McAleer, come on, your comments.
It's in relation to the points raised by Councillor O'Coffey, and I think it's very apt. Flags and claps, you can eat neither of those. And I think it's quite disingenuous of certain members of in the chamber say when they didn't back a proposal by Councillor O'Coffey, which I believe I seconded, to back a 15% pay increase for NHS staff. So I think the idea of having a flag, raising a flag, or patting someone on the back, you know, we're long past any of that. And whilst acknowledging broadly the magnificent and outstanding and heroic work that many of the frontline services do provide, it would be remiss of me as a representative for Mid Tyrone not to call into question the disingenuous and the two-tiered policing, the corporate policing that the people of Greencastle in Mid Tyrone are currently experiencing, the increased harassment, scurrilous accusations being made against people. And
Councillor Warrington.
We're getting off this. We're discussing recognising their emergency services.
Chair, with respect, that's not a point of order.
Getting on this hobby horse again.
Right. Okay. Your point.
Chair, that's not a point of order.
Sorry, your points have been well noted there, Councillor Warrington. Councillor McAleer, please keep to what you're saying and keep it sensible.
Chair, this is relevant to the emergency services. Councillor Warrington, I'm sure, would recognise the police service as one of the emergency services. When you call a point of order, you state which standing order you're quoting.
Councillor
He didn't do
McAleer,
that,
you're
so
actually holding
he's
up
at-
proceedings now.
Yes, and because I was
You're holding up
interrupted, Chair,
proceedings
and I'm
now.
being interrupted by yourself now.
Well,
Do you want? Are you going to?
Sorry,
allow me
I'm the
to-
chair. Bring
Yes,
your
Chair,
comments.
and why? So
Bring your
can you
comments to
explain
a
to me
close.
why I'm constantly interrupted, Chair? Why I'm constantly being told
Carry
how
on, I'm
long I
allowed
have
you-
left, and no other
if
member
you-
does that.
if
Members
you
of
were-
your
if
own
you-
party are allowed to
if you
speak
weren't
beyond
allowed-
3 minutes.
Councillor McAleer, if you weren't allowed to speak, I wouldn't be allowing you in. So you've had the floor.
Yes, Chair,
many
well, you can't
occasions-
silence
you've
the
had
people
many
in the throne
occasions
that
this
easily,
evening-
sir.
You've had many occasions this evening to speak. Carry on.
As I was saying before being rudely interrupted by Councillor Warrington, the people of Mid-Tyrone and in Greencastle in particular are being harassed day in, day out about scurrilous charges, non-existent charges, charges from years ago which were dealt with at the time on the behest of Dalradian, a foreign interest which has no support locally. And it's actually quite scandalous and quite insulting that Councillor Warrington repeatedly labels this a hobby horse issue as someone from the Fermanagh area who repeatedly supports and proposes and seconds any motion in support of Dalradian. I would like to know what his interest is in this area,
Right,
in
that's
my
enough.
area, and the people I represent,
You just
because
bring
it's
your-
quite worrying, and he
bring your
hasn't declared
comments
an
to close
interest
now,
in any
Councillor
previous
McAleer.
issue.
Councillor
So I'd like to
McAleer,
know
bring
what
your
that is,
comments
and
to
I'd
a
like to see him
close.
put it in the record. Thank you, Chair.
Bring your comments to close. We have no other option now. You've talked too long, basically. So we now have to close the meeting. And we will bring the motions to the next meeting of our full council, which will be in September 2021. So thanks everyone for your cooperation. We can't go any further this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Can I wish, at this stage, wish Councillor Chris Smith all the very best for the future, and I look forward to working with the man who is going to replace him. So all the best, Councillor Smith.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Chair. Much appreciated.
Best of luck.
All the best, Chris. Thanks, Earl.
No more, Chris.
Thanks, Chair.
Good luck, Chris Smith. Barry here.
Thanks, Barry.